You're dirt. We think you're dirt, Paul.
Who is we?
The West, all the superpowers, everything you believe in, Paul. They think you're dirt. They think you're dumb. You're worthless.
I'm afraid I don't understand what you are saying, sir.
Oh, come on, don't bullshit me, Paul. You're the smartest man here. You got them all eating out of your hands. You could own this freaking hotel, except for one thing. You're black. You're not even a nigger. You're an African.
Our next story focuses on the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA. This U.S. initiative has provided duty-free access for African goods to the American market for years. But the plan expired on the 30th of September, raising concerns that President Donald Trump's administration may not renew it. However, officials have reportedly hinted at a one-year extension. According to reports, a White House official has said that the Trump administration supports a one-year extension of AGOA. Since taking office in January, the administration had not publicly stated a position on the act. AGOA has been a landmark trade agreement for 25 years, granting duty-free access to the U.S. market for several African products. At least 32 African nations have been eligible for preferential treatment under the program. Top exports include crude oil, motor vehicles, apparel, jewelry, citrus fruits, and more. South Africa has been the top beneficiary, followed by Nigeria and Kenya. AGOA has also been instrumental in job creation across sectors. For example, in Kenya, approximately 66,000 workers are employed in the apparel sector. In Lesotho, around 45,000 workers are in the apparel industry, and in South Africa, about 30,000 workers are in the automotive sector. So the expiration of AGOA puts thousands of jobs and businesses at risk. Last-ditch talks on the future of AGOA have been reportedly taking place in Washington. Lesotho's trade minister said last week that the United States plans to extend it by a year. African business representatives have also received assurances that AGOA could be renewed retroactively in November. But even as top Trump administration officials have given off-the-record assurances to African leaders, the extension has not yet been implemented and uncertainty remains. President Trump's tariff policies have further plunged the fate of AGOA into doubt. Several African nations face high reciprocal tariffs, including South Africa, the top beneficiary. Once AGOA lapses, African countries lose their preferential status and their exports fall back under standard U.S. tariffs. African governments, manufacturers, and trade unions are lobbying the U.S. administration for a temporary extension. The Kenyan President, William Ruto, last week said he is seeking a 5-year extension of AGOA. He also said he is seeking a bilateral trade pact with the U.S. by the end of this year.
I will be having a conversation later this evening with Secretary Rubio, and one of the push that I will be asking him is for the U.S. To consider seriously renewing and extending AGOA for at least a minimum of 5 years, because it is a platform that connects Africa and the U.S. in a very fundamental way. And it can go a long way in solving some of the trade deficits and challenges that exist at the moment, especially in the context of where the world is going. We believe that AGOA gives both Africa and the U.S. a best chance to expand and deepen trade between the United States and Africa.
The Trump administration has imposed a 10% tariff on Kenyan goods. The East African nation has been a leading exporter of textiles and apparel, which make up more than 90% of its AGOA exports. This sector has been vital for the country's export processing zones, creating several jobs primarily benefiting women and young people. With AGOA now expired, thousands of workers across Africa face uncertainty about their future.
Job, these opportunities we are talking about directly touches the livelihood of a normal citizen of that particular country. And it's not a one person, it is a hundreds, it's a millions of people. So the world need to really actually sit down, especially the U.S. government need to sit down and rethink about this livelihood.
This tariff thing now that has been imposed by Trump, it's going to have a negative effect in our operations, because now the price that we are selling the cane to the outside countries, it's going to be more. We have to have 30% more of the price, of which the customers will have to compare now which one is cheaper. Eventually they'll go for a cheaper price, and then it will affect us. They won't buy our sugar.
This job has played a very big role in my family. If I can just say, since I was employed here, my kids were still young, but up to now, I've educated them. The firstborn have just completed the university level last year, and others are in colleges, so it means a lot to me. Yeah.
With the expiration of AGOA, the future of thousands of such African workers hangs in the balance. Will the Trump administration move to extend the initiative and secure jobs, or leave exporters facing higher tariffs and uncertainty? We will keep you updated.
I watched a white riot in Portland, Oregon on television the other night.
We're learning more about the man who's leading the effort to buy the Portland Trailblazers. It turns out he's already known to Oregon regulators, and not in a good way. Tom Dundon created a company called Santander Consumer USA. 5 years ago, the state of Oregon says the company preyed on residents by giving them high-interest car loans that they couldn't afford. OPB reporter Tony Schick is part of the team that's been looking into this, and he joins me now. Tony, hi.
Hi, Jeff.
What specifics did the state give you about this company?
So the state first started looking into Santander Consumer in 2012. They sent Dundon a investigative demand saying, we have concerns that your company is violating Consumer Protection Acts in Oregon, taking advantage of consumers. That resulted in a settlement where it was called Assurance of Voluntary Compliance is what it's called, which basically says the company doesn't admit any fault but agrees to take certain steps to protect consumers, and also agreed to pay $25,000 to the state. Fast forward to 2020, the state has announced a massive nationwide settlement with Santander Consumer, part of an investigation involving 34 attorneys general, in which Oregon's attorney general at the time, Ellen Rosenblum, said these practices are predatory and harmful and will not be tolerated in Oregon. Basically what they were saying was that this company was knowingly writing car loans for people that they knew were a high risk of default and were taking advantage of Oregonians in that way.
Subprime car loans.
Subprime car loans, yes. High interest rates, sometimes aspects of the loan that were not fully disclosed, that sort of thing. The company, according to the complaints by the state, had sophisticated ways of knowing the likelihood that a borrower would default on the loan and was making those loans anyway.
What happened with the complaints?
That resulted in a settlement of $550 million spanning the nation, those 34 attorneys general, like I said.
Okay. Yeah. What do Dundon or Santander Consumer say about all this?
Dundon did not respond to our reporting or any questions we sent. He sent a text message to me saying, I'm not available now. I can talk after the sale closes. At the time of the settlement, Santander said that they would, basically they had taken a lot of steps to improve their consumer protections, and they kind of distanced themselves from these loans that were made in the past. I should say the settlement was from 2020, but Dundon was gone from the company by then.
Yeah.
But the investigation that led to that settlement started in 2014. There were numerous regulatory investigations from the U.S. Department of Justice, these state attorneys general, the SEC, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the Federal Reserve, all coming down on Santander at this time, around 2015, and Dundon is the CEO and one of the founders of the company, and he steps down as CEO in the midst of all this. Okay. The company tried to kind of distance itself from that time and that era, saying that it had taken a lot of steps, that this was a, quote, legacy issue.
Okay, well, thank you for that timeline clarification. It brings us, though, to the sale of the Portland Trailblazers this summer. Did anybody know about this history between Tom Dundon and the state of Oregon? Did they know about this conflict when the sale was approved?
That is unclear. The settlement that had been done with Santander was public. It was announced. There was a press release from the Oregon Attorney General at the time. But as Dundon was no longer with the company, he was not a public part of that settlement. Governor Tina Kotek and Mayor Keith Wilson declined comment when we asked if they knew about this. So it's unclear at this point what people knew. I should add that in addition to Santander, Dundon is also an investor in another subprime auto company called Exeter Finance that includes a lot of executives from Santander. And he, as recently as 2022, was listed as the chairman of the board of that company. And that company, the Oregon Attorney General currently confirmed to us, is under investigation by Oregon and 42 other states.
So he is still in the car loan business in some way?
In some way, yes.
Okay. Could any of this affect the sale of the Portland Trailblazers to this group that Tom Dundon leads?
I think that's unlikely. I think the sale, they have a formal sale agreement with the Allen estate. It is subject to approval from the NBA Board of Governors, but I think it's unlikely that this would be something that affects that. Something that we note in the piece is that allegations of something like predatory lending or taking advantage of people through subprime loans would not necessarily stand out amongst NBA owners. NBA ownership is a billionaires club that involves people who have been accused of a large number of different things, ranging from improper mortgage writing to exploiting inmates through prison telecommunication companies or committing sexual harassment. It's unlikely to me that this is something that the NBA Board of Governors would take into consideration.
Yeah, and when is the NBA Board of Governors expected to make a decision about the sale?
That can take several months. I believe it's not expected to happen until sometime in the spring.
Okay, more to come. Tony, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Tony Schick is an investigative reporter with OPB, and you can read more about Tom Dundon's history in the auto loan industry at our website, opb.org.
A terrible thing to waste. Environmental Racism and Its Assault on the American Mind. Written by Harriet A. Washington.
Plastic pollution is no longer just an ocean problem. Now scientists are finding microplastics in the human brain and even inside bones. They could be weakening bones, affecting memory, and threatening our health in ways we are only just beginning to understand. Watch our next report to see what you can do to protect yourself.
The harms of plastic pollution are well known. But it's not just polybags, cans and bottles. Plastic pollution is deeper than what you see. It is spread to places you can't even imagine. Oceans, rivers, seafood, packaged drinks, and even the human body. Yes, plastics have entered the human body. Studies show they can reach deep into bones and the brain, and they are linked to serious health issues like dementia. But how does plastic get there? It's actually microplastics. Extremely small pieces of plastic debris. They are now almost everywhere, because plastics break down into tiny particles through daily use, disposal, and environmental wear and tear. Their presence in the human body is alarming. A new study in Osteoporosis International shows microplastics penetrating bone marrow. Scientists fear it may be harming human health on a large scale. The study reviewed 62 scientific articles. It confirmed microplastics can infiltrate blood, brain, placenta, breast milk, and bone tissue, including bone marrow. So what can microplastics do to bones? They can cause osteoporosis, a disease that makes bones fragile. They can increase fracture risks, they can damage cells and trigger inflammation, speeding up aging. And it's not just bones. A recent study in Nature Medicine 2025 found microplastics in human brains. Brain samples from dementia patients had up to 10 times more microplastics than healthy brains. Some brains had 30 times more microplastics than liver or kidney tissue. So, is this preventable? In the state of the current environment, exposure to microplastics cannot be completely eliminated. But experts say one can reduce risks. Some of the practical steps include cutting back single-use plastics and using glass or steel, avoiding heating food in plastic containers, eating fresh food, and limit packaged or processed items, filtering tap water wherever possible, avoid smoking, and maintain bone health with calcium, vitamin D, and regular exercise. Microplastics are no longer just an environmental crisis. They are inside us, our bones and our brains. The risks are growing and the clock is ticking. The sooner we act, the safer our future will be.
The Delectable Negro, Human Consumption and Homoeroticism Within U.S. Slave Culture, by Vincent Woodard, edited by Justin A. Joyce and Dwight McBride.
The Trump administration has terminated another long-running fact-finding program, the Household Food Security Report. The annual survey had been gathering data for 3 decades across 7 administrations. Now, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, or USDA, which manages the report, says that the studies, quote, do nothing more than fearmonger. NPR's Jordan Marie Smith has more.
For decades, the National Hunger Report has helped guide advocates, food banks, and policymakers in the fight against hunger in the United States. The 2023 Household Food Security Report found more than 47 million people live in food-insecure households. That means residents were uncertain if they could get consistent access to food. Among those counted were nearly 14 million children.
Without that data, we are flying blind.
Crystal Fitzsimons is the president of the Food Research and Action Center, or FRAC. Food insecurity is complicated. Variables like food deserts, the cost of living, and diet quality are frequently changing. Fitzsimons says those who study hunger in America will end up lost without the objective statistics collected in the USDA report.
The National Food Insecurity Survey is a critical, reliable data source that shows how many families in America struggle to put food on the table.
In its announcement, the USDA called the survey redundant and costly. We reached out to the USDA to better understand the decision and to ask about staff impact. A spokesperson responded by saying that, quote, an unauthorized disclosure of non-public information shows questionable judgment, and any employee willing to break that public trust undermines the integrity of the agency. Amy Barros, the president and CEO of the Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina, said they use the data year over year to identify changing needs.
We rely on this data to help us target our resources where they're needed most. Where do we need to invest more food resources? Where do we need to stand up mobile markets and help identify food deserts?
For the areas Barros and her food bank serve, the numbers show worsening conditions over the past 2 decades. And in the area around the nation's capital, hunger persists too.
It's one of the hardest things I've had to deal with in the last couple of years.
Initial Miller Galloway is a 51-year-old Black woman living with 4 disabled family members in Silver Spring, Maryland. She gets a monthly food assistance box from the local food bank. Food insecurity isn't just about hunger, Miller Galloway says.
To me, it creates anxiety. It makes you feel worthless.
Miller Galloway works closely with the Capital Area Food Bank. They rely on the USDA data, along with their own annual hunger report, which compiles county-level numbers across Virginia, Maryland, and all of Washington, D.C. But they're one of the few food banks in the country able to conduct that kind of research, according to the organization's president, Radha Muthaya.
It allows us to plan by understanding the number of people who are food insecure, their demographics, where they live.
Now, there is enough food in America for everyone, but the reports track vulnerable people living paycheck to paycheck, who often have to choose between their medicine or their next meal. And without the Household Hunger Survey, Muthaya, Fitzsimons, and Barros say it'll be harder to identify and reach people like Initial Miller Galloway when they need it most.
I didn't eat today. I'm probably going to eat tonight. I'm hopeful that I will, but at the same time, I have prescriptions that I have to pay for.
Jordan Marie Smith, NPR News, Washington.
Now pull it up, nigga. Dipping on some scissors. Dipping on some 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 scissors. Dipping on some scissors. Dipping on some scissors. Dipping on some scissors.
How much is okay to drink? The federal government is updating its dietary guidelines, which it does every 5 years. NPR's Will Stone reports there are concerns some of the evidence about alcohol will be overlooked.
No more than 2 drinks per day for a man and 1 for a woman. That's the current guidance. Several years ago, health officials in the Biden administration enlisted a handful of researchers to review the evidence in case that advice needed to change.
We worked for many, many months.
Catherine Keyes is an epidemiologist at Columbia University. She says their study looked at lots of things: motor vehicle accidents, cancer, cardiovascular disease, stroke.
We showed in that paper that the risks begin to increase even at relatively low levels of alcohol consumption.
And they modeled how the harms grow with each drink.
Your risk of dying of an alcohol-related cause at 2 drinks a day is greater than 1 in 1,000. So that's pretty substantial.
All of that was in their draft report released at the end of last year. The alcohol industry criticized the findings and called for the study to be disregarded. And now it seems that's happened.
We were told in August that the final report was not going to the packet of materials that would be considered for the dietary guidelines.
The Department of Health and Human Services did not explain the decision. The Trump administration may instead rely on another report, this one ordered by Congress and done by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine. That concluded with moderate certainty that moderate drinking is associated with a lower risk of dying, including from cardiovascular disease. Dr. Ned Kalange at the Colorado School of Public Health led that effort. He acknowledges they only went back to 2010 in their review, and they excluded studies with what's known as abstainer bias. This is when former drinkers who stop drinking are included, which makes the control group look sicker.
And so we end up with a study that I feel confident in the moderate level.
Now, Kalange says he doesn't think their findings actually support recommending drinking for health, but he rejects claims that bias tainted their work. One of the researchers on the committee received funding in the past from the alcohol industry.
I looked at every research paper that we both included and excluded. I was in on the meetings when we were drafting the report. There was no influence of industry.
Some advocacy groups worry the Trump administration, citing this report, will soften the guidelines on alcohol. Tim Stockwell, who's at the Canadian Institute for Substance Use Research, is very critical of the National Academy's report, in part because they excluded relevant studies showing the harms of alcohol, including links to cancer. He says there are many pitfalls when you analyze data on alcohol, and he once believed that moderate drinking was good for you.
25 years ago, I published a study basically saying you're crazy to doubt those protective effects.
Now, thanks to more rigorous studies, he doubts there are benefits.
Most of the literature, serious bodies like the World Health Organization, recently the European Heart Network, have all come out saying there's no safe level, there's no protective effects. So the way the field, expert opinion is shifting is towards skepticism.
In fact, the Canadian guidelines say 2 drinks a week or less is considered low risk. But it's possible the U.S. may go in the opposite direction, even with a president and health secretary who do not drink. Will Stone, NPR News.
Why genetic annihilation?
More people than ever are putting their hopes for parenthood on ice, literally. They're freezing their eggs, removing some of them from their ovaries and storing them for the future. Often they're doing this well before they intend to start a family. It's a costly procedure that had primarily been used by people undergoing medical treatments like chemotherapy that could affect their fertility. But now it's becoming more common among healthy women. We asked people taking this step to explain why.
I'm Yolanda. I'm a professor in Illinois, and I froze my eggs at 36.
My name's Caitlin. I'm 28, and I'm currently planning on doing egg freezing.
I knew I wasn't ready to have kids at that moment, but I wanted to preserve some chance of having a biological child in the future.
I want to just be able to live my life and not feel like I'm on somebody else's clock. Or I guess technically my own clock, right?
So my life since I've frozen my eggs, I've gotten a promotion. I've traveled to Paris, Antigua. I'm going to Mexico soon. I got my maternity leave in my contract. It just freed some things for me.
Especially in your 20s, for me anyways, like I'm still exploring and figuring out who I am as a person, right? I really don't know. And I don't want to saddle myself with such a big decision like having kids when I don't even know who I am and what I'm doing with my life.
I think that I can bring so much more to being a parent because I've taken that time to discover who I am, and I feel like I'm a much more mature, patient person than I was earlier in life.
Society puts a lot of pressure on women to especially find a partner, to have kids, to do all of these things. And there's really no right age to have kids. There's no right age to get married. And I think doing something like this for myself kind of normalizes that, but also gives me that freedom and opportunity.
To learn more about why egg freezing is becoming increasingly common and what it can and cannot promise, Ali Rogan spoke with fertility specialist Dr. Lucky Seacon, author of The Lucky Egg, Understanding Your Fertility and How to Get Pregnant, and journalist Natalie Lampert, who wrote The Big Freeze, a reporter's personal journey into the world of egg freezing and the quest to control our fertility.
Thank you both so much for being here. Lucky, let's start with you. What is egg freezing and why do people do it?
It's basically a method that is used to try and get around the biological clock and preserve one's fertility for the future. And what you're essentially doing is the first part of IVF. It involves two steps: stimulating the ovaries to try to get multiple eggs to mature. And then the second part of the process is called an egg retrieval. We're extracting the eggs and then we look at them under the microscope, and any of the eggs that are mature, we know could one day be possibly fertilized by sperm successfully. So those are the ones that are frozen. And then those eggs can remain frozen indefinitely. They don't change or degrade over time. And if someone runs into fertility issues later in life, they can utilize those healthier eggs that will have a better chance at turning into healthy embryos.
And Lucky, is there an ideal age at which people should consider freezing their eggs? And also, what are you seeing in terms of the demographics with people that are coming to you for this?
The simple answer is the younger, the better, right? Whenever we crunch the numbers and look at the data, the two most important variables that predict success are how many eggs are frozen and at what age it was done. But truth be told, we see great outcomes even when patients are doing this in their very early 30s, because it's still kind of a subtle shift that's happening in their biological clock at that point. In terms of changing demographic, we've seen a massive reduction in the mean age of the typical patient coming in to freeze their eggs. It used to be mostly women in their late 30s. And now we're seeing a lot of people do this more proactively. I'm seeing a lot more patients in their late 20s and early 30s. And along with that, those patients, when they are coming back years later to use their eggs, we are seeing improvements in outcomes because we're seeing lots more eggs being frozen and a better conversion rate when we go to turn those eggs into embryos.
And Natalie, from your perspective, how popular has egg freezing become, and what do we know about why?
So initially, egg freezing was done only out of medical necessity, mostly cancer patients who froze eggs before undergoing chemotherapy, which can leave a woman sterile. But egg freezing very quickly moved beyond doing it for medical reasons. In 2009, 482 healthy women in the U.S. froze their eggs. And in 2022, nearly 23,000 did, which is something like a 4,000% increase in just over a decade. So a few things contributed to this. First, in 2012, the American Society of Reproductive Medicine removed the experimental label from egg freezing. And then in 2014, Apple and Facebook announced that they would cover the cost of egg freezing for female employees, like thousands and thousands of dollars per person. So that kicked off a huge increase in companies offering a whole range of fertility benefits, including egg freezing. And there's also now much more coverage from insurance companies. So those major developments really contributed to egg freezing skyrocketing.
And Natalie, you've spoken with many patients who have done this. What's prompting them to go down this path?
What I found while reporting my book was consistent with what the research shows, which is that the vast majority of women freeze eggs because they haven't found the right partner, the person that they want to have children with. Now, I do want to say that I'm talking mostly about heterosexual women here, and it's important to mention that, for example, women in same-sex relationships rely on egg freezing to have biological children. And so the motivations are certainly different for LGBTQ plus people or solo parents by choice, etc.
And Lucky, egg freezing is far from a guarantee. How much should patients be banking on this procedure working?
I always emphasize that egg freezing is never a guarantee of future fertility. What you're doing is you're freezing potential. It's not an insurance policy. It's not a sure thing because human reproduction is inefficient. And when you go through the process of extracting those eggs and freezing them, you're freezing potential, and that inefficiency doesn't magically go away. You're still working with a bunch of eggs, which we look at as long shots. You have to eventually, if you want to come back and use them, thaw them. You will lose some eggs at that step. And then maybe 70 to 80% may fertilize. And again, this can vary from case to case. And the biggest drop off is only about half of those fertilized eggs will turn into an embryo. So you really have to start out with a lot more eggs than people often will assume. And we usually talk to patients to emphasize this point by saying, it's like a 10-to-1 ratio from eggs to live birth. But obviously that ratio is going to vary depending on factors like age and your egg quality.
And Natalie, what do we know about how this affects people once they've gone through it?
So for many women, freezing their eggs sparks a very positive and powerful psychological shift. The research is very clear on this. And what they feel is powerful relief. They feel less dating pressure, more career focus, and really a break from the constant tick-tock of their ovaries. What I find even more fascinating is that most egg freezers say that the price tag, it's very expensive, and the intense side effects are worth that peace of mind, even if they never end up using their frozen eggs, which is incredibly powerful.
There's a lot on social media that is targeting young women who might be considering doing this. What are some of the pitfalls that you've observed in terms of the efforts to kind of advertise this service to women?
I'll start by saying the most important thing to remember if freezing eggs is that egg freezing is a backup option. It offers some assurance, but it is not insurance. And that is a very important distinction. And so what I say to women who are considering freezing is, one, choose a reputable clinic, one that's been doing egg freezing and IVF for a long time. Don't go to the shiny new clinic across from your office or the chain of clinics that you always see advertised on social media. Because Allie, to your point, the marketing is quite aggressive. Those are the two most important things to keep in mind.
Natalie Lampert and Dr. Lucky Seacon, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chief said there's plenty of land here for everybody. We got more land than we can take care of and whatnot. So, we welcome you and all like that. Well, no, I'm going to take it all. Give you a bottle of whiskey. That's what you're going to get out of the deal. Right.
Wow.
And that's what they did. They admit that they did it. They wrote books about it, bragged about it. Yeah, how many Indians were killed today, Only good Indians are dead Indians.
People in the U.S. and Canada are remembering survivors of Indian boarding schools today and recalling their struggles by wearing orange shirts. Over more than a century, hundreds of government-funded schools sought to assimilate indigenous children. The goal, according to one leader of the movement, was to, quote, kill the Indian, save the man. Here's NPR's Caden Mills.
Ramona Charette Klein is from the Turtle Mountain Band of Ojibwe in North Dakota. She was just 7 years old when she was sent to the Indian boarding school in Fort Totten, about 100 miles away from home. The experience traumatized her.
There was physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, academic abuse, intellectual abuse, and neglect.
Now 78, She says she felt incredibly alone as a child.
No one was there to believe in me.
For survivors like Klein, today is a day of healing. It's about honoring their experiences and remembering the kids who never went home. The U.S. Department of Interior identified at least 973 children who died in federal Indian boarding schools, though the department says the real number is likely higher.
Morris used to be a boarding school.
21-year-old Nani Makakguman is a student leader at the University of Minnesota Morris.
It was the Morris Industrial School for Indians.
Now it's a university, and about a third of its students are Native American. Makakguman is Menominee and Winnebago. Both her mother and grandmother are boarding school survivors. She says students are planning to mark the day with a procession that will end at one of the boarding school's original buildings.
I know that sometimes this kind of thing can be somber, but I think it should be a celebration of survival, because this was a genocide. We survived.
The horrors experienced in boarding schools have often been kept secret, survivors reluctant to share what happened to them, even with close family. But that's been changing. Here's Klein.
The more we talk about it, the more awareness there is, then we wouldn't feel so alone. And it's okay to talk about it. This happened to me. I didn't do anything wrong. I was a child. Talk about it. I'm resilient and brilliant. You liked that, didn't you?
Caden Mills, NPR News.
Let me say something that gets to the very crux of the matter, and this may be offensive for some to hear who are not on the side that we're on. White people, we have been the problem for 400 years. Say that again. Let me say it one more time for those of you who didn't hear me. White people, we have been the problem for 400 years.
Now.
Hateful, vulgar, and even some racist messages scribbled throughout a local high school. Tonight, investigators say it was not a student behind this act, but an adult. Tonight, this man, Tyler Carter, a custodian at Francis Howell High School, now faces multiple charges, including harassment motivated by discrimination. This is First Alert 4 at 10. I'm Morgan Harris. Corey is on assignment. Those messages erased tonight, but frustration lingers for Francis Howell parents. Jordan Burrell heard from one of them who says this is a representation of a bigger issue, Jordan.
Morgan, a lot of the parents I spoke to today say they were completely shocked to hear this wasn't done by a student, but an employee. And for them, it has left them uneasy tonight, knowing a person expected to be a trusted adult was behind those hateful messages.
Horrified. I mean, every emotion imaginable that you could think went, like, I think my jaw dropped to the floor, honestly.
Francis Howell parents shocked to learn a custodian employed by Francis Howell High School is accused of doing the racist graffiti written in the school's restrooms last week.
It appears to have been racially motivated.
The St. Charles County prosecuting attorney charged Tyler Carter with harassment motivated by discrimination and property damage. According to the probable cause, Carter wrote racist statements on bathroom walls and stalls. He also wrote sexually explicit words in classrooms. Carter said he was tired of cleaning graffiti left by students, and he targeted the African-American community because he believed the black students did the vandalism. Investigators say he even caused damage with cleaning chemicals.
He poured that out in the maintenance areas and stuff like that, and caused a little bit of destruction there, a little bit of it's going to cost the school district some money to clean it up.
Francis Howell School's interim superintendent said in an email to parents they could not give any further details about the incident, but, quote, employees who violate conduct expectations and Board of Education policies face consequences up to and including termination of employment.
We're not going to tolerate it. Not only is the state, as the prosecuting attorney, going to accept it, but the people of St. Charles County are not going to accept it.
Parents like Stephanie Rickers, who agrees, but says this is only the beginning of the work the district needs to do.
This is more than just about one person. This is a culture in our community, whether we like it or not. And there needs to be some education, some anti-racism education that's done, and just work with the district as a whole.
Now Carter is in jail tonight and is being held with a $50,000 bond. Francis Howell School District said in the email to parents, Carter still works for the district but was placed on leave in accordance with Board of Education policies. Morgan?
All right, Jordan, thank you. A story we'll certainly continue to follow. Let's turn to...
It's like giving an animal, a brand new car, and training the animal to ride up and down the street in it. And then you stand back and point at the animal. Like one white man said in the late 1950s. He said he doesn't care what kind of car a Negro has. He said he's still a nigger. And when he rides by in a shiny car, to him, it's just a monkey in a car. White people built a car, put a monkey in it, trained the monkey to drive the car, so now you're looking at a monkey in a car. See, but black people don't see themselves that way. But this is how the white supremacists see us, and they are the ones who run our business.
A Polk County mother is demanding an apology after she says her son's elementary school teacher made a birthday gesture that was offensive rather than celebratory. 10 Tampa Bay News reporter Angelicia Bruton has the video at the center of a school board investigation.
Hi, Legend. Did you have a birthday last week?
Yes. Legend Whitaker just turned 6 years old.
Can we sing happy birthday to you?
He attends Floral Avenue Elementary in Bartow, where his class and teachers celebrated with a song.
Happy birthday to you.
But what happened next?
Would you like the funny song now that I sing to you?
Stirred up hurt feelings and anger.
Happy birthday to you. You live in the zoo. You look like a monkey, and you smell like 1, 2. Give a clap, everybody.
I don't like stuff like that. Legend says the song hurt his feelings. His mother, Desiree Prather, says the teacher sent her the video, and she went straight to the main office.
I automatically said, that's unacceptable. And I don't think nothing's funny about it.
Prather says there's a history of black people being described that way, which makes it extremely upsetting.
My skin is boiling. I don't even like racism, and to know where we come from and our ancestors, and for us to be labeled like that, because when they call us monkey, they basically saying that we're ugly, we act like a monkey and all this and that. I don't like that at all.
Polk County Public Schools district staff and the HR department are reviewing this. I followed up with additional questions, like, is this the first time this teacher has sung this song to students? And I also asked, while this is being reviewed, will the teacher still be in the classrooms? I've not heard back yet.
I don't play games about my child.
In a letter to the school board, Prather asked for an apology, immediate disciplinary action, and counseling for her son. After receiving no response, she decided to show up in person.
They just kept saying it's an active investigation. They can't answer no questions or anything like that.
Angelicia Bruton, 10 Tampa Bay.
Prather says her son was moved to a different classroom after the incident, but he hasn't returned to school since. She now plans to transfer him to another school.
Why haven't you learned anything?
I would say it's destroyed his life.
At Meany Middle School, a math teacher confronted 8th grader Zach Sheikh Ibrahim about violating the school's backpack policy. A civil lawsuit says the teacher got in Zach's face, causing him to push away. That's when the teacher punched Zach in the face twice. The teacher then pushed and shook him and banged his head on the table.
So he's got PTSD, he has severe depression, he has a lot of diagnoses going on.
Surveillance video shows Zach being pushed out of the classroom, his backpack thrown out along with him. Then, in the next class, a student recorded this audio, which seems to capture the teacher describing what happened, a recording that is now considered evidence in the case.
I'm sorry, I had a rough morning. I had to punch a student in the face.
Really? Why?
Yes.
Like actually?
Yes.
You're so late on. What was he doing?
Well, if you put your hands on me, I'm going to kill you. If you put your hands on me, they may have to surgically remove my foot from your posterior.
One student reported the incident to school officials, writing, "Please keep this anonymous. I am worried for my safety." Neither the teacher nor the school district immediately responded to requests for comment.
These children were terrified.
Zach's attorneys have been building a case for years.
We have over a dozen instances at Seattle Public Schools alone of him touching students. He assaulted a coworker.
The student was suspended for 15 days. Meanwhile, the teacher got a 5-day suspension. A year later, the teacher transferred to another school within the district, where new complaints emerged. He resigned in 2021 as part of a settlement agreement with the district, according to the lawsuit.
He taught you that black was a curse, and you believe that. Did you ever look up the word black in a dictionary?
For what?
Did you ever study anything that wasn't part of some con?
What the hell for, man?
Come with me. Black, destitute of light, devoid of color, enveloped in darkness, hence utterly dismal or gloomy, as the future looked black.
Pretty good with them words, ain't you?
Soiled with dirt, foul, sullen, hostile, forbidding, as a black day. Foully or outrageously wicked, as black cruelty, indicating disgrace, dishonor, or culpability. And there's others, black male, black ball, black guard.
Yeah, well, that's something, all right.
A mother filing a federal lawsuit against the Clark County School District claiming her son was subjected to racial abuse.
She alleges the abuse happened for almost 2 years. 8 News Now education reporter Joshua Piguero joins us from the newsroom. And Joshua, she says administrators ignored her complaints.
Yes, Vanessa, repeated use of the N-word, being called a watermelon muncher. These are some of the derogatory terms used against a student at OK Adcock Elementary School. The student's mother says speaking with his teachers and other staffers to fix her problems only escalated her son's abuse.
My name is Jessica Orta, and I'm here to address the racial harassment and bullying my son has endured.
That's Jessica Orta speaking before the Clark County School Board this year on January 23rd. She outlined to trustees and in her federal lawsuit that a group of students began bullying her son in the fall of 2023, and that CCSD, for almost 2 years and across 2 classrooms, tried the same unreasonable and ineffective steps, and the actions failed to eliminate the racially motivated attacks and unsafe learning environment.
Despite repeated reports to the teacher, the school failed to take meaningful action. This inaction allowed the harassment to escalate.
Orta says her son was called the N-word, told, quote, "Your skin is burnt by the sun, you're too black, you eat 15 buckets of fried chicken every day, you shower in Kool-Aid, and you're a watermelon muncher."
The harassment continued in the 24-25 school year. Another boy from the same friend group escalated the abuse, starting the year by barring my son from entering the school, saying that he was, quote, too black to come inside.
Orta listed 8 CCSD staffers as defendants in her lawsuit, including Adcock's principal and trustee Lorena Biasati. She says, quote, "Designee's failure to place a student who targeted my son because of his skin color in a different classroom permitted the student to continue the racially motivated attacks." Orta also says the assistant principal pushed back on the allegations and said of one of the students bullying her son, well, he is black too. Now, I did ask Orta's attorney for a statement, and she said the complaint speaks for itself. As for how much money Orta is seeking from CCSD, the lawsuit says it will be proven at trial. Reporting live in the newsroom, Joshua Piguero, 8 News Now.
Joshua, thank you. That student no longer attends Adcock Elementary School. CCSD has a policy of not commenting on pending litigation.
This the city of Chicago.
A group of alders called out the Chicago Teachers Union for glorifying a fugitive who'd been sentenced to life in prison for murder. They also called on Mayor Brandon Johnson to denounce the social media post. Assata Shakur, the godmother of rapper Tupac Shakur, was sentenced to life in prison for murdering a state trooper in 1973 during a shootout on the New Jersey Turnpike. Born Joanne Chesimard, Shakur landed on the FBI's most wanted terrorist list after she escaped prison in 1979 and fled to Cuba. She was a member of the militant Black Liberation Army, which was connected to bombings, bank robberies, and the murders of numerous police officers in the 1970s. After her death on September 25th, the Chicago Teachers Union tweeted, "Today we honor the life and legacy of a revolutionary fighter, a fierce writer, a revered elder of black liberation, and a leader of freedom whose spirit continues to live in our struggle." A group of alders calling that post irresponsible.
Why does this matter? Because when union leaders elevate someone tied to one of the most violent groups in American history, they are sending our children a dangerous message. That violence and extremism are acceptable paths to change.
We live in a time when law enforcement officers across our city and nation are already under threat. Praising someone with this history of violence is not just misguided, it puts our local police officers in danger.
In a statement, the teachers union fired back, saying those alders are focusing on a tweet commemorating a history they do not understand and prefer to ignore or misrepresent.
The left feels that she was wrongly convicted. They don't buy the fact that she's a cop killer. So from the CTU's perspective, this is a legitimate person to be honored because she was, as they say, a freedom fighter.
Mayor Brandon Johnson today refusing to denounce the tweet by his former employer.
Sade is an important person in the Black liberation movement who has repeatedly claimed her innocence.
Sade Shakur's death and controversial path only serves to highlight the racial and political divide in this country, according to experts, and she will likely remain reviled by some while revered by others.
Black babies cost less. The Independent Monitor's report focused on conditions at the Lincoln Hills School for Boys and Copper Lake School for Girls. It found that no youths were held in solitary confinement for longer than 3 days, and staff had drastically reduced the use of strip searches and mechanical restraints. Tim Muth is an attorney with the ACLU of Wisconsin, which was part of a lawsuit that led to the court-ordered monitoring of the youth prisons. He says there's been considerable progress making conditions more humane, but more can be done.
The conditions are the minimum conditions required by the Constitution. That's what you can achieve through a lawsuit and a consent decree.
Muth says what the state needs is a residential facility for youth closer to Milwaukee. After years of delays, Governor Tony Evers says a 32-bed facility in the city could open late next year. Rich Kramer, Wisconsin Public Radio.
The man knot. Race, class, genre, and the dilemmas of black manhood.
And much has been made about a first-of-its-kind global settlement Chicago has reached to close to 176 lawsuits tied to corrupt former police sergeant Ronald Watts. Watts operated out of a public housing complex, shaking people down for money and intel and arresting them when they didn't pay up. Council members say the $90 million deal saves money and ends a dark chapter in Chicago's history. But what's been lost amid news of the massive settlement are the people at the center of the lawsuits. WBEZ's Mariah Woolful spoke to two men about what this moment and money means to them.
When Dion Willis and Eson Claybron were growing up in the Ida B. Wells housing complex, Willis says they knew to look both ways for Watts before going outside.
You got to peep out the window, peep out the door, look this way to look that way, just to see if you won't see his cars coming.
His whole team.
Detective cars.
Yeah.
Back to back to back.
Despite the extra precaution and knowing that Watts had a reputation for framing neighbors, they got set up by Watts themselves. Claybron remembers it like yesterday, even though it's been 20 years.
It was like 3 months after my birthday. I just turned 17. It was February. I think it was Valentine's Day, I think. I ain't go to school that day. I was kicking it with a couple friends. When he seen me, he grabbed me because we was walking through the building. And when he pulled me to the back door, he told me what I got for him.
Claybron realized Watts was telling him to cough up some cash or some information on drug dealers in the building. When he didn't have either, he says Watts planted drugs on him, cocaine and heroin, and charged him with 2 felonies that led to probation. He remembers Watts saying, "That's what you get when you don't listen to Watts." Willis's story is similar, but he was arrested by Watts twice after he wouldn't pay Watts $5,000 or give him intel on illegal activity. He was convicted for heroin possession, but says he didn't have any drugs on him. He spent 2 years in prison and time on house arrest as the cases played out. He missed his daughter's birth as a result.
I was furious. I was furious. I probably walked a hole in the floors in that house at that time. I was furious. But I tried to, like my baby mama said, keep your composure. You okay? You're here. So when she come home, you can see her when she come home. But for them to take that away from me for something I didn't do, it's mind-boggling.
Watts was eventually convicted and served time for shaking down an FBI informant. All of the people involved in the settlement have had their charges vacated, and most have been deemed innocent by a judge. Claybron keeps his certificate of innocence locked in a safe, ready to show employers who ask for it. Willis says for years, no one wanted to hire him. He couldn't support his 2 kids, and he still copes with no one believing him for years.
It was like I was shut out the world because of what he did to me. Every day I fight to stay sane and not insane. You know, working and things like that, it helps me, but it's still a fight.
Claybron lives in Minnesota, where he moved 16 years ago because Watts was still harassing him and his family, who still live here.
Missing family reunions, events and stuff. I missed a whole lot of time up out of my life because I was scared to go back to Chicago because I'm scared he gonna come grab me or something and put me in jail.
As for the settlements, neither Claiborne nor Willis would say what they're receiving, but the payments range from $150,000 for those sentenced to probation to up to more than $3 million for a man who spent a decade in prison. Willis says it doesn't solve all of the problems Watts and the city created, but it helps.
They don't give much, but it gives back a little that I lost.
Claiborne says it's not about the money at all, but publicly acknowledging a wrong done to him. Eventually, he wants to come back home. Mariah Wolfel, WBEZ News.
Nonprofit Urban Alchemy is mourning the loss of one of their San Francisco ambassadors who died Tuesday after being shot outside the main public library in Civic Center last week. KRON 4's Stephanie Rothman has more.
On Friday night, Joey Alexander, one of the Urban Alchemy city ambassadors, did what he's done the last 2 years: discourage criminal activity and drug use in San Francisco's roughest areas. Urban Alchemy spokesperson Jess Montejano says the 60-year-old ex-incarcerated Oakland resident asked a man to stop using drugs outside the main doors of the San Francisco Public Library in Civic Center.
Because there's women and children around, and he didn't want that, to be seen, just like all of our practitioners do. The suspect didn't like that. They exchanged, some words. Pulled a shotgun out of his bag and shot him in the torso area.
According to San Francisco police, 42-year-old Edmund Bowen was arrested after the shooting. Alexander was taken to the hospital where he died on Tuesday. The district attorney's office plans to upgrade Bowen's charges to murder.
There's definitely some fear, amongst Urban Alchemy practitioners right now. It's very easy to see themselves in Mr. Alexander. It's a tight-knit team.
700 San Francisco Urban Alchemy ambassadors have experienced homelessness, drug use, or been incarcerated themselves. Now they're grieving, holding a memorial outside the library, and later moved the tribute to the Oasis, the main hub for workers in the Tenderloin district.
That was his beat in front of the main library, something that he showed up to work, every day when it was his shift, and they all have shared experience. And that shared experience and the trauma and crisis that they went through individually creates, again, this collective superpower that gives them the motivation and the pride, to give back.
Mayor Lurie also mourned Alexander's death, saying on X in part, quote, "Our ambassadors dedicate their lives to the work of helping those on the streets. Joey Alexander gave his life for it." Alexander leaves behind one son and 2 older brothers. Reporting in San Francisco, Stephanie Rothman, KRON 4 News.
And then I got into Memphis.
Breaking news that the National Guard is in Memphis as part of a federal crackdown on crime. Our Jordan James is there as well with a closer look at what to expect and how neighbors are responding.
After much anticipation, the National Guard has joined several agencies here in Memphis to fight crime, a task which has left an entire community on high alert. With helicopters hovering,
these are challenging times,
and officers lining the roads.
It's a damn shame. I'm just going to be honest.
Memphis residents are on alert as a crime crackdown is underway, leading to the presence of the National Guard.
I don't think it is a good position to put us in or the government in to have the military come in and use military tactics against its own citizens.
They're among 13 federal and state agencies currently operating. Since Monday, at least 53 people have been arrested. Brandon B. Porter, a local pastor, supports the initiative.
The National Guard are not here to harass law-abiding citizens. They're here to deal with crime and other issues that disrupt the living here in the city of Memphis. And so don't ride dirty.
The National Guard has been deputized but are not expected to be armed to make arrests. With their presence likely to grow in the coming days, concerns remains for a city that's seen its fair share of challenges.
We'll make this something that we can learn from and get through.
This is not the end. This is, again, we got a lot of bumpy roads, so this is just another bump in the road.
At this point, no timeline has been given as for how long this operation will be in place. Governor Bill Lee previously said that success looks like to him Memphis being safer. Reporting here in Memphis, Jordan James, WSMV4.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi are also in Memphis. Bondi says they'll charge anyone who touches a police officer with assault. Meanwhile, Hegseth says the National Guard will be providing security for law enforcement to allow them to safely do their jobs.
Our department is here to enable you, law enforcement,
to do your job, to help protect your facilities, help protect your people, so that your hands can be untied.
We are going to work hand in hand to make the most violent crime city in the country have no crime.
Hegseth says President Trump will be following the data and progress of the law enforcement in Memphis.
This question, why is this stuff happening? The New York Times editorial today. The Trump effect. See, this is what I'm doing with my money, buying newspapers like Dick Gregory. The Trump effect and how it spreads. It says we are on the brink, under Trump, on the brink of fascism. New York Times, all the news that's fit to print, editorial 12/10/2015. I say fascism is end-stage white supremacy. See, just like in Nazi Germany. Fascism, system of racism, white supremacy, determined to
Well, money and support keep rolling into Grand Blanc. One fundraising page getting some serious attention.
And that's because it's actually for the shooter's family. And Fox News' Jessica Dupnack joining us now live. And, Jessica, a lot of people are wondering, what about the victims' families? Are there any pages for that?
There are quite a few for the victims' families, but this is one of those headlines where you got to read over a couple of times because kind of the twist here, the guy that started this, David Butler, he's from Utah. He is a member of the LDS Church. He said, you know what? It dawned on him to do the, quote, right thing and start a fundraising page specifically for the shooter's wife and young son. And so far, it's been incredibly successful, raising $320,000. Do you identify at all with the wife and the son, or is there any sort of soft spot that you have for them in particular?
There's at least one child here, and a child who has serious health issues, and like now he's fatherless, right? And what is he going to know about his father? And oh my God, right? Like, does he know now?
There's always going to be critics, of course. We can't escape them. What would you say to people who would maybe say, just give that money to the LDS Church?
I have been told I am incentivizing people to murder Mormons because they'll think we're going to go fund me for them if they kill Mormons. First of all, I'm a writer. I've been getting bad reviews for 15 years. This is not even the worst. Look, the ratio of light and love and giving and joy to these sort of, obnoxious reactions is about 100 to 1.
There's a lot of misconceptions, I think, about the LDS Church. I think that we've seen on TV, that we've read in the papers. What is this movement that you're doing kind of break some of maybe those misconceptions that the LDS Church has had?
I think I have happened to be the person that sort of provided this suddenly high-profile opportunity, right? And I think it shows that we are the same. And yeah, there are differences. There are differences between me and the next Mormon guy, right? But there's so much to be gained from focusing on what we share.
There is a lot of support. When he first started this page, in the first 12 hours, it raised $100,000. There's been some 8,000 donors, and a lot of them, incredibly, are from the LDS Church community. Reporting live, Jessica Dupnack on The Edge.
Well, certainly the children of the shooter had, nothing to do with what happened and the tragedy that unfolded, and they'll be victimized or facing their own trauma for years to come. So certainly you can have a heart, some empathy for that situation as well. But did get a lot of people talking. Thanks for that information, Jess.
White people kill for fun.
federal government is shut down after Republicans and Democrats in the Senate could not agree on a funding bill. A new NPR PBS News Marist poll is out this morning, and it found that most people, or more people, would blame Republicans for a shutdown. In a few minutes, we're going to speak with Democratic Representative Rosa DeLauro about her party strategy.
First, though, more details from that poll. It found the overwhelming majority believe children should be vaccinated before they're going to school, and that it's more important to control gun violence rather than protect gun rights.
NPR senior political editor and correspondent Domenico Montanaro has all the numbers. So, Domenico, let's start with the shutdown. What did the poll find?
Yeah, Republicans get more of the blame, 38 to 27, though that's not close to a majority. In 2019, during what was the longest government shutdown in history, over a month, 50% or more blamed Trump. Now, 31% would blame both parties equally. Trump and Republicans get low approval ratings, but Democrats in Congress are worse. Just 25% approve of them. That's because of Democrats, by the way. Less than half approve of members of their own party in Congress. So a lot of politics to play here as the shutdown goes on.
Now, one thing that really jumps out in this survey, which you've written about this morning on NPR.org, the idea that more people believe they might have to resort to violence to fix things. I mean, how many people are we talking about?
Yeah, the number is up to 30% who think that they may have to resort to violence to get the country back on the right track. That's up 11 points from when we asked that question in April of last year.
So what do you think is driving that?
Well, largely, it's changed views among some Democrats. I mean, they've gone from just 12% saying violence might be necessary to now 28%. That's a pretty big jump. But Republicans are higher still at 31%. That's also a marginal increase from last year. And even a quarter of independents are saying this now. You know, it's important to remember, though, 70% of people do not feel this way. More than 3/4 say political violence is a major problem. And other polling has shown that when specific acts of violence are polled, the numbers are much lower. Still, it's pretty alarming, though, that people are increasingly feeling this way.
Yeah. Now, okay, let's get to free speech, something we've been talking about a lot since Jimmy Kimmel was taken off the air for a week after the Trump administration pressured ABC and its affiliates. So how are people feeling about free speech in America?
Well, they're not feeling like it's very free. Roughly 8 in 10 say they think that the country's gone too far in restricting speech. That crosses political lines, with almost 9 in 10 Democrats and independents saying this, as well as almost 2/3 of Republicans. Remember, conservatives were the ones who were saying for years that they felt that their speech, their free speech rights, were being curtailed on college campuses and online. So a lot of people now have gripes with what can and can't be said in the country, and that's showing up in this poll. People also believe the federal government should play a minimal role in regulating speech. Just 15% said they think it should be a major role. It should have a major role in doing so. 44% said it should play only a minor one. Another 4 in 10 said it should play no role at all.
All right, now to the National Guard being deployed to cities and what President Trump says is a plan to reduce crime and assist law enforcement. Trump says he's been focusing on places such as Memphis, Portland, Oregon, and also Chicago. How are people feeling about whether they want them in their city?
Yes, slim majority, 52%, support the effort, but mostly because of how strongly Republicans feel about it. 90% of Republicans are in favor, compared to majorities of Democrats and independents who are opposed. For Democrats, 3/4 are opposed to it, 60% strongly so. Makes for a really polarizing issue.
And one more really quick, the Epstein files. How do people feel about that?
More than 6 in 10 disapprove of Trump's handling of the files related to the late financier who died in prison by suicide 5 years ago. 3/4 want them fully released with victims' names redacted.
NPR senior political editor and correspondent Domenico Montanaro. Thanks.
You got it.
That if you want ultimate expression of white supremacy and the white supremacist mentality, and you want to put it in the form of one person that I would name, and that's something I very seldom do, it would be Jeffrey Dahmer. He's the ultimate expression of white supremacy. Everything that he was doing, working in a chocolate factory, the whole 9 yards, storing black male bodies in canisters of lye and alcohol and whatnot, got them in the refrigerator, and cannibalism and all of that, and calm, very methodical, even when questioned by the law enforcement officers, very calm. Hannibal Lecter.
Frozen femurs in the freezer. Jeffrey Dahmer.
Again, with a tragic end to a missing persons case in the city of Vallejo, a woman's body was found in a home that police had previously searched. 28-year-old Renia Lewis was reported missing on Sunday. Vallejo police first checked the home that very same day and then found nothing at the time. But when police searched the home a second time 2 days later, there was a hidden door that led to a gruesome discovery. Police say that they have arrested a suspect and that he admitted to that homicide. Amanda Harry went to the home where neighbors are laying flowers in her memory.
Here on 14th Street in Vallejo, we have a missing person sign for Lewis, just feet away from what now has become a growing memorial. There are flowers and candles that people have been dropping off all day.
I mean, it's the proper thing to do, especially if you're from Vallejo. Whether you knew the person or not, I mean, we're all human.
Colleen Isom-Reyes says, as a lifelong Vallejo resident and a mother, this homicide feels personal. She didn't know 28-year-old Renia Lewis, but she can't help but think about what happened to her in this home.
The main question, like anybody else, is why? What was the purpose? You know, I wouldn't want to find my daughter like that.
Vallejo police received a missing persons report about Lewis on Sunday. That same day, their investigation led officers to this yellow home near 14th Street and Campbell Avenue. They conducted a welfare check and did what police called a cursory search, but found no signs of Lewis. On Tuesday, with the FBI now joining the case, detectives were back at the home with a search warrant. This time, they discovered a concealed entry into an attic. That's where they made the grisly discovery.
I don't want to get into the owner of the home, but it's a shed in the back of the house that was designed for a resident.
Rashad Hollis with Vallejo Police says Lewis's body was found in an attic within a living area in the back of the home. Additional information led police to a suspect, 41-year-old Douglas Irwin Shaw. He was arrested shortly after at his workplace.
He was Mirandized and admitted to this heinous crime.
Brooke Hayes says she didn't know Lewis, but had mutual friends. She says the whole community is impacted by this loss.
It's really sad, and it's really scary for a lot of these young ladies out here on the streets of Vallejo. Vallejo is a small community, so it really shook the whole community up, and everybody was doing their best to try to find her. And it's just so sad that she was just around the corner.
Isom-Reyes feels for her family and says what they'll have to go through over the coming days and weeks is unimaginable.
And then her birthday was coming up really soon, so that in itself is hard to deal with. So we're just all showing our love and support to the family.
Lewis's death marks Vallejo's 14th homicide of 2025.
Shaw is being held at the Solano County Jail without bail. His next court appearance is scheduled for tomorrow.
Renia Lewis, 28 years old. Vallejo, that's Bay Area, California, for folks who are not familiar. You can take the BART, right, the train. You can take that to Vallejo from San Fran, Oakland, Berkeley, all of that. You can keep right on rolling and hit Vallejo easy. I think E40 to this whole Bay Area, you know. But Renia Lewis, 28 years old. Disgraceful through and through. Reminded me immediately of Sade C. Robinson, 19. She was a little bit older, Miss Lewis, but still. And the family, you just heard, they said Miss Lewis's family had been searching for her. They were using Life 360. That's one of the exact same apps that Sade Robinson's friends and attempted family members using the exact same apps. Where's the phone? What is going on? What? How many of you all? Let's see. So when we in Catherine Massey Book Club, we read about the 22 caliber killer, and he had in his basement. He had set up a gun range in the basement of his house because he liked shooting so much. We had Max Anderson, convicted killer, race soldier, Sade C. Robinson. He had all these hidden compartments. This is what they testified to in trial in Milwaukee. All these little hidden compartments in his house. We could hide weapons and knives and drugs and all the rest of it. I said, dang, who has got... I have never lived in a residence property where we had a shed. And I said, look here, Gus T, you've got a hidden... You tap the wall 2 times right here. Oh, man, you got the drawer, it pop open. I got my Glock in here. I got 15 pounds of cocaine. Like, things ever get bad. I got my bug out bag. And like, what? Renia Lewis's 41-year-old white killer got a secret wall. They said the police searched the first time and didn't find the body. How many of you all got a secret wall, secret room, secret house? We'll ask the same question I did before. How many of y'all got a gun range in your house, attic or basement? Secret closet, secret room, secret crawl space. Any of you all ever lived in a property with such a thing? What does it mean to be white? J. Dahmer, Context of White Supremacy. White people kill for fun. Gus T. Renegade, Worthless Negro from Virginia, in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the global system of white supremacy. Today's date, October 4, 2025. So I have been told. Our weekly compensatory call-in, not for spectators. Let us know if you have thoughts, observations, counter-racist suggestions. The number 720-716-7300. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Number again, 720-716-7300. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. My totally random factoid: the Peyton Gendron federal trial death penalty got moved. However you want to think of it. For myself, however you want to think of it, regrettably or thankfully, it got moved, as I had been thinking it might, but it got moved. But originally it was supposed to be going on right now. So I had been looking at the calendar, plotting a world where I might be in Buffalo in October of 2025, and I believe, unless my memory is bad, they have a film festival during this month. So if you are in the West New York area, maybe to catch a Bills game, research O.J. Simpson, the film festival, Buffalo's film festival, might be going on. The festivals generally have quite a bit of info about racism, white supremacy. I looked so early in the year that I don't know what films will be a part of the festival or what will be showing, any of that. I don't even know I was correct. Yes, the film festival is, in fact, it's this week. It's coming up at the end of the week, so they should have all the films up at this point, and I suspect they'll probably have some films that are directly about racism, white supremacy. Hey, they might have a film about the .22 caliber killer. You should definitely go to that one, take notes, dial in, and give us a report on what it was about. I would lose my mind. Like, if they had a film on the .22 caliber killer and I was supposed to be there, or even had thought and looked at the possibility of being there, and then I missed out on it, I would vomit. Anyway, yeah, if they have a film on the .22 caliber killer, check it out and let us know. But reading, way more important than watching television, Netflix, YouTube, streaming, even film festivals. Okay, I've been scrolling through. I've seen most of, or a lot of the films that they have. Some of these were at the other festivals that I've been at over the past year or so, but neither here nor there. They do have one film about, or they have two films that I know explicitly are about racism. One, because I read the book. One of these, it is a adaptation of a book that I read that is all about racism. And then the other film I saw at the film festival, it's also about remaining native, non-white child who is at a predominantly white institution and all of the racism. They talk about the Indian schools in that one too. So there you go. Feel free if you're in the West New York area. Now, back to today's date, October 4. Neely Fuller Jr., late great, his birthday is October 6, 1929. Not that he was about birthdays, but that was, unless I'm misinformed, his date of birth, October 6, 1929. George Stinney, 14-year-old black male who was executed in a South Carolina electric chair. His born date is October 21, 1929. He and Mr. Fuller are basically born 2 weeks apart in October of 1929. So both of them have birth dates coming up. Even if I had known that, I would have asked Mr. Fuller, like, do you know, does the name George Stinney, is that familiar? Do you remember that case? Like, is that one? Because that got, attention. It was in the newspapers and stuff. Do you remember hearing about this case when you were 14? That would have been kind of his Emmett Till, if you will, because that was way before the Emmett Till case, about, maybe not way before. It's about a decade plus before Emmett Till's lynching. So, yeah, that's one I would have asked if I had known the dates that well. I didn't know the exact date that George Stinney was born. For whatever reason, I got that information more recently. But yeah, I would have asked him if he read about that case when he was 14. Did they talk about that case? What did he think? He was the same age. Like, man, and they put him in the electric chair. Like, gee whiz. Anyway, but that is October factoid, if you are so inclined. If you're connected to the South Carolina area, maybe read a teaspoon on George Stinney. He's on the cover of Dr. Curry's The Man Not for a Reason. They even talk about that case still in South Carolina. Get some of the white relatives who maintain almost 100 years later, George did it. They got the right one. That nigger should have fried. 14. Anywho, let's see. Tidbits before we get to some of the folks who dialed in, callers, some of the audio reports other than Miss Lewis that we heard about. The report on Tom Dundon, white man suspected racist. Now, he's allegedly about to buy the Portland Trailblazers. Now, I was not going to play that report. Initially, I don't even live in Portland. I don't go to Trailblazer games. They stole the Supersonics, so I'm done with it. But when I looked at the visuals, this is an audio report, but they had pictures and such accompanying the article, and they started talking about, dang, this white dude is going to buy Mr. Dundon, D-U-N-D-O-N. He's going to buy potentially the Trailblazers, I guess whites in the NBA, Steve Ballmer and such. They have to approve all this. But he's going to buy the team. Like, man, this dude has got this really criminal past where in Oregon he's got these subprime loans where they're going out and targeting people who are in desperate situations and then setting them up with all these just astronomical interest rates and what do they call it, predatory loans and such. Like, this is terrible. Like, do we want a person like this to own our beloved trailblazers? Clyde Drexler is rolling over in his grave. Bill Walton rolling over in his grave. I mean, what? Brandon Roy, University of Washington great, rolling over in his grave. What? Now, the visual that caught my attention, they had a young lady in this report, black female, because I told you this is subprime loans. So they have a young lady, black female, and she's talking about, hey, I needed a vehicle, and what am I gonna? I gotta have a car and all this. Let me give you her name really quick, because this is what. There we go, Ashley Penn, ASHLE''PENN. And so they give you some of the details because they didn't include this in the audio report that you heard. So they and what caught my attention even more, what pushed me to play it, was they don't have lots of black people in Washington State where I live. They don't have lots of black people in Oregon State right beneath me. That's deliberate. It's in the Oregon State Constitution. No Negras. Never removed. Could, I guess, still be enforced. So it reads, this is Oregon Public Broadcasting. As for Exeter Finance, Oregon consumers have filed 23 complaints against it with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, all of which the agency listed as closed with explanation from the company. One of those complaints was from Ashley Penn. Penn, a single mother of 3, working as a staffing company accountant manager in 2021, needed a car. Her credit was bad, of course, but a dealership was able to get her a loan on a 2014 Chrysler 300 through Exeter Finance. Penn would have to make $511 monthly payments over 72 months, reflecting an interest rate of 28%. The interest rate was pretty insane, I'll say, but I needed a car so bad. Duh. Working mom, 3, duh. 2 years later, Penn found herself 3 payments behind and had been evicted from her apartment. She said, according to her consumer complaint, she was living in the sedan when Exeter sent a company to repossess it in January 2023. That's still kind of pandemic. It was late at night, and she was parked outside her ex's house. Her daughters watched from inside. Jesus Christ. Attempted parent. That's not name calling or being judgmental of her. It would say the same thing about myself. That's just why Mr. Fuller made that term. You can't qualify for a parent under these conditions. That's Gus T. That's any person classified as not white. Continuing, she wrote, she spent the next 10 plus hours locked in her car in a standoff with the repo agent before enlisting a bankruptcy attorney who halted the repossession. She recorded much of it on video, which she shared with Exeter. It was horrific. I mean, I cried for God, Penn told OPB and ProPublica. I was afraid to leave my car. I couldn't get out of the car after that. What if you have to go to the bathroom? Sound like an Amazon worker. Seattle, I was just so afraid somebody was going to take it, her car. Penn complained, arguing the law prohibits repossessing a car with someone inside it, thank God, and demanded $150,000 in compensation. Exeter told her that it had done a thorough review which concluded that she had failed to pay and that she was warned ahead of time her car would be taken away. Penn's version of events, Exeter wrote, could not be corroborated. And I'll stop there, but it goes on to talk about how apparently they're accused of Mr. Dundon, potential owner of the Trailblazers, that they had a pattern of this sort of behavior. Now, I would like to know, so this predatory lending, so is it the same as like the predatory subprime loans in the housing market in 2018, where it's we're going to get all the desperate niggers like Miss Penn who need a house, maybe got 3 children, single mom, who can go get all them and get them on these crazy loans, 35% interest rate and all the like, and whammo, then we have the 4. Is it the same type of thing they did in Oregon where they don't even have a whole lot of niggers? Is that what this is? The other component that they left out, I found the components that they did not include in the audio were far more compelling. So the components that they left out, so that paragraph where they said, do you think it's likely that some of these white, Steve Ballmer, some of these Donald Sterling-esque NBA owners, Mark Cuban, that they will say, hey, we don't want a dude like this in our billionaire white boys club. Nah, get on out of here, Mr. Dundon. We don't need your business. And they said it is a billionaires club whose past and current members or their companies have been accused of housing discrimination, knowingly underwriting improper mortgages, exploiting prison inmates. Now, they didn't say this, making racist comments, and engaging in sexual misconduct. The Blazers' current owner, Jody Allen, settled lawsuits in which her company's security guards accused her of sexual harassment. What? A female? What? And attempting to smuggle penguin skulls and giraffe bones out of Antarctica. Now, I know they didn't include that part, any of it, because I would have rewound so hard, like, wait a minute. Whoa. Can I repeat again? Because I could have did the rewind. Whoop, 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 whoop. And then white people kill for fun. And that's Jeff Dahmer, too. That's a whole lot. That's a whole lot of white culture. So the white woman, Jody Allen, is accused of smuggling penguin skulls and giraffe bones out of Antarctica and Africa. What? What? What does it? I'm vegan, by the way. I don't even remember how many. It's been a long time. I was looking at vegan apple pie recipes earlier. I don't even remember when it was. Giraffe bones? What? Continuing, but they left all that out of the audio report, and that's why I played it, and Oregon is right down the road. I could go to Trailblazer. I won't now, but I could go to a Trailblazers game if I so desired. Now, the segment, not coincidentally, that followed, they talked about the link between microplastics and dementia, a lot of that in food consumption. We talked about all of that years ago. They're late. Harriet A. Washington in my top 10, a terrible thing to waste, and she talks about this specifically. Most of the suggestions that they provided about how to minimize the plastic intake, she talked about in the book already. We heard, if you were with us in the book club, not eating out was big on the list because your food is probably going to be wrapped in plastic, or at least often, and then all that processed food and such that they get at McDonald's or KFC or wherever else, that's packed in plastic, often shipped to them. So it's just plastic on top of plastic on top of plastic, and then you're eating with plastic forks and all the rest of it. I mean, it's just eat fresh foods that you can make at home, and then use authentic utensils that are not plastic, maybe a real plate, all the rest of it. Fresh fruits, veggies that are not bagged in plastic. And they even said, make sure you don't drink tap water. Is it that much plastic in the water? Wow, I don't even use tap water for my plants, so I'm definitely not going to drink it, which we had been told before by some of the COWS listeners who operate, that's a part of their job to be in the water system. They said with great emphasis, do not drink tap water. I don't even use it for my plant. And I've heard many people in the horticulture community, they say for a number of plants, same thing. Do not use tap water. You want to kill a plant, put it under the sink, turn on the water. Ooh-wee. It's a goner. All the plastic, maybe? Who knows? The lead? I mean, take your guesses, I reckon. The USDA, it was Earl Butz. I was trying to, why USDA keeps coming up on the program. We talk about the federal cuts and such. It was Earl Butz, the white race soldier, Nixon administration. I guess I can be forgiven for forgetting things that happened 50 years ago when I was not born. But Earl Butz, Secretary of Agriculture, said, I know what the Negro wants. What does the Negro want? Earl Butz say the Negro wants loose shoes, tight pee, talking about vagina, and a warm place to take a feces. Secretary of Agriculture told a reporter this. Like, woo, that's what I know about the Negro. But yes, now the USDA probably got pictures of Earl Butz in the building. They're no longer going to track surveys on how many people in the U.S. struggle to get food. Now, I say this all coincidentally times with what they call browning of this part of the world, alleging lower population of people classified as white, increased population of people who are not white. Now we no longer want to keep tabs on that. How many people here are starving? Delectable Negro. We don't want to know. I can see. Okay. And then with that, they said they think the U.S. is going to be the only country in the world, so-called, to ignore the guidelines about alcohol. And even when I was listening, I said, whoa, the research that we heard, they said anything over one drink per week, not one a day or anything else. They didn't talk about no benefits. They said anything, any sort of consumption over one beer, one glass of wine, one shot of liquor, anything over one drink, you are heading towards cancer. They had lots of data and evidence to that. They didn't say nothing about, now there are some benefits. They didn't say none of that. They said one drink a week, anything over that, not going to be good for your health. Why would that be something to ignore? Where they had all that increase in drinking during COVID, why wouldn't that be now, hey, let's not increase our bad habits. The Rona is over. We're not even making you take the vaccines and such anymore. Put that Miller Lite down. Hey, unhand that Mad Dog 2020. I know it's Saturday night. You black and dangerous. You can be dangerous with a little water. How about that? Not tap water. That is dangerous. But you can be Negro and dangerous. You don't need St. Ides. Why can't we say that? Why? And particularly, what caught my ire was they said we are going to ignore these regulations, safety concerns, scientifically founded safety concerns about alcohol, even though our commander and chief doesn't drink. Whoa. That see, white people do that sort of hypocritical. That to me, it sounded so Native American when Fuller talking about that. I said, we're going to get you with that fire water, chief. Oh, yes, we got a deal. And we're going to sit down and we'll drink a little bit. And he act like he drink and he pour Mad Dog 2020 in your cup. And it looks like he poured Mad Dog 2020 in his cup and looked like he even took a sip and he just dumped his out. You sitting there drinking and you can't even spell Mad, can't even say Mad Dog. Sober. Now let's sign the contract, chief. Don't worry about it, chief. I got you. Just put your, here, I'm going to hold your hand so you can write because you slurring kind of bad, but we're going to sign that up. All righty, I done bought Manhattan and you all will get Mad Dog for the next 500 years. All right. Get him to the bathroom. You don't want him to have an accident, see. See, warm place to take us, see. Let's see. The in vitro fertilization, or I guess not quite IVF. Well, assistance with the fertilization process. They talked about the massive increase in freezing of eggs. Now, when they specifically asked for demographics, they didn't give us racial demographics. They just gave us the age. Oh, man. The same way that I think Ashley Penn, well, I know because they got pictures. I was thinking, is it a lot of black people in Oregon that they're getting messing over with these old subprime car loans? Is it a lot of white chicks doing this old egg freezing? Who even, matter of fact, since they said the spearhead of this, Apple and Google, they started giving benefits to their employees. Oh, do Apple and Google, do they have tons of non-white females working for them? I know they don't have no tons of black females. So are these like Indians with those H-1 visas? They trying to clog the toilet and keep them out? I would have to think it'd be lots of white chicks. And Judith Finlayson, you are what your grandparents ate. She did tell us by 2060, half of the dudes in North America and Europe would be infertile. They would need procedures like this to procreate. I have been saying since she spoke with us, dang, we are slowly inching our way towards 2060. We could conceivably be around to see this. Whoa, how does that impact the system of white supremacy where more than half of the white dudes, they cannot make a white child? Whoa. This is that world, egg free. And they said, hey, even that ain't no guarantee. They were very precise with the words there. This ain't no guarantee. It's just a chance. Ain't no, hey, 1 in 10 of these eggs will make it to embryo. 1 in 10. So, hey, then we keep getting that 10%. Hey, Dr. Welsing would wink like, see there. Even that reminds me, Gus T was ignorant enough to say it might be, since we have this overpowering, awesome, terroristic white force, it might be what we should be doing is studying, very Welsing-esque study, take care of ourselves. Hey, I'm going to work to not drink tap water. I'm going to work to not go to jail. I'm going to work to eat healthy, so I'm not eating plastic all day long from the dollar store, like Harriet A. Washington told us, and studying the system of white supremacy racism. Because if it is true, if white people are aging, silver tsunami, they're infertile, they can't have children, they want to be gay and all the rest of it, anti-sex, which is also you're not having children. And they said that some people are, lesbian and queer and trans and all the rest of it, and they got to freeze eggs. So, okay, all of that is anti-sex, you're not having children. Fine. Maybe what to do is we're going to study. We're not going to have no sexual activity with white people. We're not helping you with any of this. You go on and freeze and do whatever you got to do. IVF it up, but it ain't going to be no hopping in bed with Leroy and Lakeisha. And in fact, we're going to be plucking your nerves. We're going to be over here taking care of ourselves as best we can. And all we talk about is seriously the system of white supremacy racism. I said, speed it up. Maybe we can stress them out and speed up the process of their demise. Maybe. Don't even have to be violent at all. Just call out accurately the system of we're just doing that all because they say free speech. They DEI. You can't even talk about it. System of white, just accurately. We're not doing white privilege and discrimination and diversity. Like, oh no. Let's get to the core of what this is all about. The system of white supremacy. White genetic annihilation. And in fact, we've even had white people tell us that white people get even more anxious when you point that out. Just keep pointing that out. Let's see. The segment, they had so many on schools. Like, man, I don't have children. If I did, wow, it would, and the school year just started, like literally University of Washington class just started there last week. I think they've barely done 1 full week of school. Maybe other places they've done maybe 1 month of school, maybe a little over if they started at the end of August. But I mean, the academic year, it just started in the U.S. And you got all of that. In fact, they had that segment, Tyler Carter, white man. This dude said he was being bullied by the black children at school. So he had to go and vandalize and nigger this and write sexually explicit comments on the wall. Like, whoa. Did we get penile graffiti? What did he write on the wall in addition to nigger this and all the racism? What sexually explicit content did Tyler Carter put on the wall? And his justification, they were bullying me. Who? The 13-year-old? What did they do to bully you? A gang of these 15-year-olds, they caught you in the bathroom and pantsed you? What? I am speechless. How old are you, Mr. Carter? You're grown white. You don't have a walkie-talkie. You could back up the heathens in 5th grade, or you can age them up even. The heathens in 9th grade have run amok. They got their sugar high from lunch. They're trying to get me. You couldn't get your radio out and get assistance? You quivering in the halls or out in your car before you go into the school every day? Leroy Jr., Devontae and them, they gonna get me. They took my lunch money. Are you serious? You're a grown white man. And that's your response? I'm going to go vandalize the school and destroy property? It was 2 of those. It was a white man in South Carolina this week. They said he was spraying. He had ordered like some chemical that smelled like feces, and he was spraying this all over the school. They got him on video, and this was causing all sorts of problems. They said like students, teachers were getting sick from this. They had to like cancel class and spend all this money wasting time and energy, and found out that it was this white man who worked at the school who was doing this, and they got him on video with his little spray bottle. I wouldn't even have that in my brain computer. Order a chemical scent that smells like feces and spray it on the children at school that I work at. We had a listener ask, they were pondering, why would he do this? He works at the school, and why are you going to terrorize where you work at? And they said, hey, this is a white man. This school has about 50% Negro students. That might be all you need to know. Apparently a hefty population of Negro instructors too, so that might be all you need to know. And I told you, students and staff allegedly got sick from this too, in addition to class being disrupted. I think they had to cancel class a few days, but this is in South Carolina. This just happened, like within the last few weeks. I told you, school year just started. It just happened. Let's see. Now, hopping cross continent to Seattle, Washington, Zachariah Sheikh Ibrahim, black male student. He said he went to school here in Seattle with a backpack, and they said that he violated whatever the policy is about backpacks and such. Now, this is from King 5, local news station in Seattle. It says, make sure I get the correct, there we go. According to the lawsuit, students reported the teacher, and the teacher is not named because I guess he hadn't been criminally charged, so I don't know if this is a white instructor, non-white, I don't know. According to the lawsuit, students reported the teacher for displaying a pillow at the front of his classroom reading, "I have issues," and would point to it while threatening them. Witness statements describe him telling students he would kill them and that he kept a blowtorch under his desk and told stories about lighting animals and homeless people on fire. The January 2018 incident began over a backpack policy violation, shouted Khalif Browder. According to court documents and witness statements, the teacher confronted Sheikh Ibrahim and put his forehead against the student's forehead and used racial slurs. Now, this could be a non-white instructor. We do have a lot of anti-blackness. It could even be a black person born in the U.S., 8 black grandparents, all born in Mississippi, and doing this. That has been known to happen from time to time, but when the 13-year-old pushed him away, the teacher punched him twice, slammed his head on a table, dragged him across it, and forced him into the hallway. And then we heard the part they said the audio recorded, submitted as evidence, seems to capture the teacher explaining to his next class what happened. I had a rough morning. I had to punch a student in the face. Well, if you put your hands on me, I'm going to kill you. I don't have visual images, so I don't know if this was a non-white person or a white person. I will say, as a privileged black male, I would be stunned if a black male felt that. And we don't even have black male teachers. We don't even have black male teachers. Like, what? I would be stunned. Young academic. So young academic is in front of the class talking to a room with a lot of white children. And I mean, it's Seattle. Even if it's at a school that has a lot of black students, there's still going to be white people there. So it's just hard for me to imagine young academic Leroy being that brazen with his conduct for so long. Like he's telling them, I torture animals and people, and, you mess around and flunk out of school if you want to. If I see you out there on a cardboard box, boy, you might be toast. No metaphor, boy. I will light you up, no metaphor. Like, what? It's hard for me to imagine Leroy been doing this for how long? Ain't nobody got no problem with it. Like, are they that desperate for teachers here in Seattle? I guess it could be a non-white person, I reckon, but wow. If you play around with sex, your child get punched in the face for violating the backpack policy at school. Wow. Not Seattle's best moment. We hop from Seattle to Vegas, which I hate. Young black Jessica Orta said that her child called a watermelon muncher. You eat 15 buckets of chicken and you are too black to enter the school. And they said what I just told you. Apparently, at least one of the students engaged in this behavior was black. What I say on the program, what's my favorite says? And they say, Gus T, the cows is lame, you are lame, and you should have retired 17 years ago. I will never listen to your program again. P.S. You're extra whack. What I say for 17 years. So what? Replace white supremacy with justice. They say, Gus T, you got the best program in the world. I have learned so much. You have the greatest voice in the world, and I became vegan. So what? Although I would smile about the vegan thing, but so what? Replace white supremacy with justice, even if it was black students. You watermelon muncher. You too black to get on out of here. Yeah, get out of here. You too black. Even if it was black students doing this, or a singular black student doing this. So what? Is this acceptable behavior at school? Do you have policy, code of conduct? Yes or no? Do you have different policy, code of conduct? Now, you can be called a watermelon muncher as long as another black person says. You can be called a kike as long as someone who's classified as so-called Jewish, as long as they say it, and so on. So is that how the policy is written out? You can be called a Negro or a spear chucker as long as someone who's classified as black and they have at least 6 grandparents born in South Carolina. We'll give you 2. They can be, pretend black people, but you got to have at least 6 of them. and then you can call other folks Negro. Is that how the policy is written? It would make no difference to me at all if I was a parent and this was being allowed at the school. If it was the black or a black student, or I wouldn't really care if they were all black students doing this. Who cares? Anti-blackness. You play around with sex. The joke is on the offspring. In Chicago, they said the Negro teachers who celebrated Sade Shakur is a disgrace. The example that they're setting for the young people and the, I guess, citizens of the greater Windy City, and they said that you're going out and valorizing her and saying she was a so-called freedom fighter, and that we have got rampant violence, and the good brother Charlie Kirk just shot down. We got a time where everyone is polarized, and you're going to celebrate and champion an extremist and a cop killer. So wait a minute. They just had what they called an ambush in Pennsylvania. They had a white man. He went out and killed not one, not two, 3 enforcement officers in Pennsylvania. And we talked about this before. I bet nobody here heard Matthew Ruth. Who is Matthew Ruth? I bet that's what the response is. I would bet all the money, archive, live, ain't nobody here. Oh, yeah, I know all about Matthew Ruth. Went out there. That's when white man, he ambushed them 3 cops. Went out there and had the truck, and they had the kerfuffle, and he came out there and shot them. Blah, blah, blah. I bet ain't nobody here got all that information. We've said this before. White people are the master terrorists, master name callers. They might have that championship too. Master cop killers. I can go and find way more reports of white people getting mad for whatever reason, and I'm going to take it out on John Q. Law. Jane Q. Law, if you got white citizens too. But this just happened October 2. They got the updates. WGAL. This is in Pennsylvania, as I said. York County, Pennsylvania. Right down the road, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Rachel Powell, January 6th. See. New information has emerged about Matthew J. Ruth, the gunman in the deadly York County ambush, revealing a history of police calls to his Hanover home over the past 8 years. There were 11 calls with 9 incidents mentioning the homeowner's son. Good Lord. Never mind. The documents do not specifically name Matthew Ruth, but some incidents have ages that line up with his birthday. From one report 6 years ago, state police were called to the home to potentially evict the 18-year-old son. In 2019, Ruth was 18 years old. Other calls include domestic incidents, mental health incidents, and miscellaneous situations that all reference the homeowner's son. Ruth was behind the shooting of 5 law enforcement officers 2 weeks ago on Har Road, according to the York County District Attorney. 3 of them died. On September 16, the family on Har Road called the police after seeing Ruth on the trail camera dressed in camouflage and looking into the house with binoculars and an AR-15. They identified him as one of their daughter's ex-boyfriends. I'll stop there and you can get more information. Did you hear anything about Sade Shakur in there? His problem started. He had a Sade biography and that influence. Yeah, man, she shot down. She right here in the Northeast with me. I'm in Pennsylvania. She was in Newark, New Jersey. Oh, yeah, that's what, but these coppers, you got to think coming, but I ain't read nothing like that. This is just another white dude with the same that black rifle. Can I get 3? White people kill for fun. That ain't got nothing to do with Asata. Incidentally, though, if I worked for the school system with all the DEI talk and such, I probably would not be, one, I wouldn't be on social media to begin with, and then I certainly wouldn't be there saying nothing about Asada, nor in a professional capacity. Now, if I was in New Jersey, I probably, well, you'd have to get permission, but I would just bring it up as local history, not as a celebration, but just, oh man, that's on the news. That did happen here. You can read some of the letters that people wrote in support of the police and all the rest of it, but I mean, I don't think you should be ignorant about this since it's being talked about in the news. We live in Newark. We should at least know, oh, okay, that all happened right here. And then cop killing Negro, whatever. Freedom fight, whatever. It happened. You didn't hear me say either one. moving forward, we'll have time to get to Cory Booker if we have enough time for civil class. Let's see. The two black aside. I told you it was lots of school stuff. Now, we got to go back with Chicago because they talked about Ron Wallace, who is a black officer, former officer, who was convicted and wronged over all these black people. I can only assume that this is Ron Burge, because all of the people that they talked to, even though this was an audio report on WBEZ, all the people that they had pictures of and talked to were classified as black. Dion Willis and Isan Claybron, Claybron. These are all people that are classified as black, like, and I mean black, not Obama or, nothing. Oh, then he maybe got a white, lots of melanin, black, privileged black dudes. Even though it was a black male police officer who did all of this and falsely doing the John Burge, really, locking up, making up charges and falsely accusing, arresting, convicting all of these black dudes. You can, apparently in Chicago, it is super easy, CPD, to just go out and do whatever to black people in the city of Chicago. And this has been set up for decades at this point. But when you heard these privileged black males, I had so many Anthony Broadwater moments when they said, man, they done, this former black officer, that I go out and try to get jobs and they don't believe me and all the rest of it. He said for years people, thought of me as some criminal and miscreant and all the rest of it. And they said for some of them, they had their crimes vacated and, were found innocent, and some of them even got a certificate. When they were talking to Brother Willis, Brother Claybron, and they said, man, I keep my certificate of innocence in the safe. Anytime I go to an employer, they said, whoa, you didn't check the box here, and maybe you got these gaps in your employment, you've been in prison. And they said, whoa. Got my certificate of innocence. Look at that there. Look at that. Got my name on it too. Look at that. Is that black male privilege? Anthony Broadwater, he told us, he said, I like to have a job at night. Say, why you like to have a job at night, Brother Broadwater? They call that the graveyard shift. Why you want to be employed at night? He said, hey, as a privileged black male, suspected rapist, someone who had to register as a sex offender for decades, I like to have proof of my whereabouts. Like, whoa, you don't come accuse old Anthony of everything. I was at work. Look at my time card. See that? Say that? Look at that. That's black male privilege? I was going to say, I guess, maybe the black officer, but he's a criminal. And your privilege is you can go out and terrorize other black people, like I said, because I'm pretty sure if it was a whole lot of white victims of this criminal officer, not even an officer, I don't even know what to call them, like criminal, they would have interviewed them and had pictures of them posted. They didn't do that. So I'm assuming he was just terrorizing people that look like him, which is what is encouraged in the system of white supremacy. Black people harm other black people. Non-white people harm other non-white people. It's not even that many white people on the planet to harm, so definitely back up. Hey, not all white people is racist, so back up off us. Back up off us. They had the shooting, Urban Alchemy in San Francisco at the public library. Oh, that hurt my heart. I spent so much time. I broadcasted from the San Francisco main library civic center. I went there I spent a month in San Francisco, man. I went to the day I left San Francisco, I got vegan apple pie from the farmer's market that is right at the main San Francisco library. I went to the library and checked the video that they're transcribing for me, checked over the last few details, and depart, because you can catch the BART. You can go north to Vallejo. You can go south to the airport. I hopped on it, went south to the airport. And to see the report, Joey Alexander, another privileged black male, shot and killed in front of the library, asking one of those derelicts, can you ease up off of your crack cocaine or fentanyl or whatever? Their children, maybe even Gus T, just trying to go to the library. Maybe they want to learn about Jim Jones, Harvey Milk, maybe. And they said Junkie pulled a shotgun out of his backpack. I was stunned, like, what the hell? I thought that area was dangerous when I was there. I had been there before, like to the main library. I'd been there before. I lived in the East Bay. Jesus Christ. That library is like not even a block from where I went to the Erykah Badu concert. Like, man, drugs, sobriety would be best, and it will probably be things continuing as they are, white anxiety, end stage white supremacy. It will probably be more of those types of incidents. But Jesus Christ, I would take that. Man, I would have that in the forefront of my mind. My head would be on a swivel. The late Joey Alexander shot with a shotgun for asking them not to smoke drugs in front of the library. Not a good look for the 415. Maybe National Guard might be coming to San Fran next. We'll have to see. Now they're off to Memphis. Dr. King rolling over in his grave. Now, I did hear some people who said that they were looking forward to the National Guard coming to Memphis, and even some other, might be coming to Portland, who knows. But, man, I mean, they said, they talked to one of the citizens, and he said, I'm looking forward to it. We need, put an end to all this crime and craziness. Don't be driving dirty. Now, that's from an old Negro rap tune. Where they, talk about driving without a license, driving without insurance, driving under the influence, maybe a combination of all three, who knows. Is the National Guard going to stop to enforce, like, traffic violations? Like to check to verify that you have vehicle insurance or verify that you have a valid driver's license? Like, that's what the National Guard, that would seem like you could just hire more local officers to do that. Like, dang. That's what the National Guard is going to be pulling you. Woo! I would not want to drive in Tennessee or Memphis. I was thinking, like, isn't that Tyree Nichols? Like, the police, they had their aggressive slam squad or whatever it was named. What, that in Memphis? Tyree Nichols, I think that was in Memphis. Now, instead of the local Negro officers pulling him over to kill him, it'd be the National Guard? Wow. I have not been to Memphis. I have been to Tennessee a number of times, but deuces on Memphis. I will have to skip the King Museum, pardon. I have to skip the King Museum and all the other Elvis, all the other goodies they got there. I will have to skip that one, like, Jesus Christ. I did mention the Vallejo shooting. Sade C. Robinson, already spoke about that. I'll make sure I get in just that poll on political violence being necessary. I cannot highlight the hypocrisy and lies enough. How do you have white people saying, hey, don't you be telling me about no Assata Shakur. She's a black identity extremist, a precursor to Antifa, and you don't be celebrating no Negro cop killers while I'm around, and then come back and say, hey, we might have to kill some folks to get this country right. What? Wait a minute. And even maybe we can background that. That is important, but background that. The number one question, whom do you think needs to be a victim of violence or a target of violence to get things right? Answer that question with detail, please. Let me know if I need to go hide out. Do I need to get me, an ice axe like Rachel Powell? Who do you think might need to be targeted with violence to get things corrected? You putting up alligator Alcatraz concentration camps accurately. You saying you need more ICE agents. You sending National Guard troops to all the cities. Who do you need to go upside their head? Shoot, maybe get your AR-15. who needs to be targeted to get things corrected. Negroes should be very concerned about that. And that's another one. I don't think they went around and asked, like, Leroy, Jerome, Lakeisha, Devontae, do you think violence is needed to get things back on track, headed towards justice? That's what you think is needed? I cannot imagine that at all. They are going to talk to all these white people who got their AR-15s stocked, oiled, and loaded. Who are you practicing to shoot at? Who are you thinking about shooting? White people kill for fun. Now, let me get back to Jody Allen and them giraffe bones. Like, man, that might even be one. Can we take a field trip to Portland? That's like a cheapie. Like, I think you can get a Uber, or, they got bus travel. You can get the bus. They might even have a train. I think they got the train. Like, that's a cheapie. I don't even have to go out and beg for no nickels for that. I think they got the train from Seattle to Portland. What you gonna do with them giraffe bones, Jody Allen? Is that like a display? You got that at the Portland Trailblazer facility? Like, what? And then, look. If you are poaching and smuggling giraffe bones, you can't tell, like, when the visitors and the people you're going to show off with all this, you can't tell them, check out these giraffe bones I done smuggled in from Somalia, wherever you get them from, the Congo. You can't tell them that. So what story do you lie and put on this? Like, man, we were on safari. Obama cousins and them took us out in Kenya, and woo, we tracked it. Are you serious? What does it mean to be white? And what you do with the giraffe bones, man? Like, what? You woke up one day and said, giraffe bones. Not even do the stuffing and all that, where it kind of looks like it's still alive, munching grass. No. Just give me the skeleton. Give me an old giraffe femur. 720-716-7300. The code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Now, if they got giraffe bones, you know how many Negro bones they got from the lynchings. That's what I'm saying. White culture just through and through. White people kill for fun. You can't get the giraffe bones without killing the giraffe. White people kill for fun. How many Leroy bones you got? How many Jamal bones you got? They never did get Devontae's skull. They never did get Sade Robinson's skull. 720-716-7300. The code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Happy birthday, Mr. Fuller. Folks who dialed in with a hand up line should be open.
May I be heard? Please.
Irie in Louis Cancer Alley, talking about them plastics and such. Yes, ma'am.
Well, since you mentioned it, I have a funeral service to attend very soon, and the cause of death is cancer and diabetes. I don't know which came first, but I did speak to this relative a couple years ago about going vegan after a stroke event, and I was yelled at, and that was the last time I spoke to my relative, and I'm not upset about that per se because, she's human, and at the time she thought she was doing the best she could. So, I mean, it's just sad that sounds like she knew she was passing away and basically resigned herself to death. signed the DNR. And I just pray for the offspring that, you know, they get whatever they need to, you know, rebound from the loss. I know it's like to lose a parent, and going forward with other business that needs to be attended to, because it's hard to do stuff like that, especially when it's a parent or grandparent. Be business minded after a loss like that. But yeah, cancer and diabetes. I think I'm to the point that I think that ICE is becoming the national police. We have a national guard, but we have national police, because just looking surfacely, right, if they're being dispatched places, you know, so-called, as the white people would say, urban places where non-white people live, they're acting as a police force, which is also paramilitary. I know that gets said a lot in different venues, but it's not the military. And I'm starting to also think that ICE is purposed right now to keep people in, along with possibly keeping people out, maybe more so in than out. We don't talk about economics a whole lot that I know of. We do, I mean, workplace racism and stuff, but so I've been listening and looking and reading different things, and people are suggesting that because of the big, beautiful bill, they're going to swap out the debt and convert it to crypto, which would then nullify all the national debt and basically create a new fractional reserve that's digitized. They're cheating the system. They're cheating the current system by making a new system, and that is going to cause a severe recession. And so people that might want to leave, I'm guessing they're not going to let them leave. And then if it really goes as bad as people are predicting, because some people are also saying that gold is going to be nullified with this particular strategy, then people are going to be very upset. There's probably going to be, white backlash, because they don't want to ever face their white supremacist cousins and friends, the people in charge. It's easier to assault and blame non-white people. And so there are going possibly incursions like that, possibly incursions of non-white people who have not understood the system of racism, white supremacy. I can't say I understood as soon as I needed to. I understand as much as I understand, and I know there's more to learn. But the point is, they got people out here that know less than me, you, and other people on this line possibly, and Lord only knows what they'll do. So it's preemptive being in these different places, to me. You know what I'm saying? I could be wrong. I want to be wrong because I'm broke. I'm broke. I have had so many issues in life with family and illness and whatever, and then 2020, I cannot say I'm fully prepared. I'm doing the best I can, but at the same time, if I was really prepared, I would have I don't know where I'd have went, but I'd either left America with my family, or we would have been somewhere remote if I'd have been smart and used to living somehow, and whatever. Anyhow, to the school situation, I was just thinking about something that had happened in school with a couple of the kids. I don't know. It's just so frustrating. I don't want to suggest that people don't have kids, but it's true. You have to be so critical, and you have to plan to the end. You have to forecast mishaps and accidents, and what if this don't happen? What if somebody is just opposed to me trying to give my offspring an education that they can produce justice with? And I'm talking to these parents that want children tutored by me, and they're not prepared to do alternative things with their children. They're still not reading to the kids. They're not recognizing that it's possible the kids are doing things behind their back because they're showing certain behaviors that indicate alcohol, cannabis, or vaping could be involved. And then they're admitting, oh, he has a gaming addiction. I don't know what to do. And you say, have you taken the device? I just don't know. And then if you're in a situation where in a school district where kids are practicing racism and adults are practicing racism, and you're not ready to talk to the kids about that, or, you know, one tutee of mine asked, is this racist, Miss Irie, if a white student writes another kid's name on the wall, and then he puts, like, I don't know if it was Monkey or Chip or whatever by the name, and then the teacher punishes everybody else but the white kid that wrote it? Isn't that racist? And I'm looking at the mom because she was close by, and I'm just looking like, for him to be asking me if that's racist, that means you haven't talked to him about that being racist or not. Either way, whatever you believe, y'all didn't bring it up. And now he's trying to talk to me about it because he knows I'm direct about racism and about African history. I'm trying to teach him some self-respect. And I'm just like, we losing. I don't know if that's a metaphor or not, but the condition of the children, I think Dr. Joy DeGrasse said that the condition of the children is the condition of your group. She would say community, I guess, but I'm going to say our group. And I'll mute my line. Whew, pray for the sick and shut in. Good night.
Condolences on your loss. Condolences for the children who lost a mom, other relatives dealing with all of that. Yep, Cancer Alley, that is by design, like in many ways, not having correct grocery stores and what have you, and then dumping chemicals and such where black people live, and food deserts, as they call them, where black people just don't have access to quality, nutritious victuals, and then even where you brain trash people, myself, all of us, to where we're not given adequate information about food, health, nutrition, really anything that's constructive. So we develop all of these bad habits and addictive foods, and then we get all these health problems and such, and we end up being resistant, many of us, to, maybe we don't need all these po' boys. Maybe we don't need all these sodas. Maybe, we want to eat more veggies. I like pork. We all like cheese. Maybe let's look at some better eating options. A lot, in particular, like I said, that's by design, especially if you've been eating all this stuff for years. You grow up in the schools eating the Lunchables, Bay Area mom telling us about eating all that bad food and processed food and all the rest of it covered in plastic. It's difficult to have someone come and tell you, hey, maybe changing up some of the things on your dinner plate, maybe that might help, some of these health problems. Victims guaranteed qualified, minimize you can't, just like counter racism, can't force it on people. But that is Dr. Cambon, his book, Subtle Suicide, where he talks about the cigarette smoking and alcohol consumption and all the rest of it, that white people dump all these poisons on us. Sound like probably going to be more of it to have our president, who is a teetotaler, but he's going to, hey, let's withhold all the information from them about how, hey, alcohol is carcinogen. Cancer Alley. Lots of liquor stores on Cancer Alley. She said, being known for being direct about the racism, when they asked about the monkey thing, I said, wow, we had that pop up earlier, where the teacher sung the birthday song to the child. Said, "You look like a monkey." I said, "Wow, they got all the children with all the apes and monkey banana thing just all the time inundated." Like, wow, Mr. Fuller. Even the scholar at Stanford, Jennifer Eberhardt, Bay Area, Jennifer Eberhardt, she did that research. She won a Guggenheim Genius Grant for her research that shows that people classified as white almost reflexively associate black people with monkeys, and that this has been the case for a very long, like that, everything that black mom said about what they them singing that birthday song, so-called, to her child. I mean, you look like even though I've heard that before, but it is so insulting and inappropriate and racist and not funny at all to be joking. And you look like, get out of. And she sent it to the mom, the teacher, unless I misheard that, sent it to her, bragging. I bet so she can say, "Oh, it was just a joke. It was all. It was nothing. It was nothing. This was all just in good. It just giggles for his birthday." That's what they think of us. Everything she do, ugly, all of you behave like it. And even how many times we've heard the call at the courthouse who told us, one of the coworkers, they went to bring them, some of the white coworkers went, "Hey, we got you a banana donut." And the black person, who normally doesn't come in jumping up and down, "Marcus Garvey is our ancestor and we got to do something with these crime." He said that black person's like, "What? The banana donut? I'm good." And I wasn't even thinking that. Like, what? They got me. Not that I would have eaten it, but they got me like, "Banana donut? Where'd you get that from?" Because I'd never even heard of such. But they correctly, immediately, I think these white people are being racist. I couldn't just get a regular donut. You got the banana donut for me? I'm a monkey? Yes. We is monkeys. But at least the child has access to you, Irie, to come and talk honestly about, what's happening and such. If you find a place to relocate where racism is not a problem, or I guess lesser of a problem, share. We will pack up and beat it with you. Let's see. Other folks who dialed in with a hand up, proceed.
May I be heard?
We'll get our female caller first, but I did hear both of you.
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Evening, everyone. As far as the segments you played, Gus, the first one, well, it wasn't the first one. The one about Tom Dundon, the guy who was with the company that was doing the predatory auto loans, and you read and you said that lady was paying upwards of $500 a month for a 2014 Chrysler, and it was for 72 months. Now, I don't remember what the number was. I just did like 500, but that would have been like $36,000 she paid for a 9-year-old car. That car probably cost $50,000 when it was brand new, maybe $60,000 if it was super nice. And then that whole thing they were talking about, the predatory loan. And the question was asked, did anybody know about the history between Tom Dundon and the state of Oregon at the time of sale? And they were like, well, that was unclear. But at the end of the segment, they said, he said, it's unlikely to me that this is something that the NBA Board of Governors will take into consideration. So, all of this, it doesn't sound great, but nobody cares. Let's see. The custodian accused of doing the graffiti. I thought it was a white lady, but I can't tell. Well, I don't know. But she said there needs to be anti-racism education that's done, and I just wondered, what would that education look like? Do you go to a class? They say don't call black people niggers, and he's like, okay, got it. No, I was confused about that part. What do they tell you at the anti-racism education? The lady where, and that whole, the you look like the monkey and you smell like one too, the mom, the black mom, she said, you know, I don't even like racism. And then she used a metaphor. She said, my skin is boiling. I thought that's what she said. Now, I'm not exactly sure what she means by that. Maybe she's saying she's angry or she's frustrated, but, you know, it might be better to just use precise language, regular words, say, you know, what it is that you're thinking instead of the metaphor. And also that brought the skin into it as well. Chicago, the Asada Shakur. This also sounded like a white woman, and she was talking about Asada Shakur, and she said she was tied to one of the most violent groups in American history. Now, I didn't think Asada Shakur was tied to the KKK or a police department or the U.S. government. I don't think, you know, she was really, that seems like an inaccurate statement to me. I am ill-informed, though. The GoFundMe for the white man who drove his truck into the Mormon church, shot some people, and then set the church on fire. The guy who was talking on that segment, he said there is so much to be gained from focusing on what we share. And I wasn't sure exactly what he was talking about. I thought maybe he could have been talking about their racial classification, like, hey, this is another white person, so we should just focus on that. Oh, and there was a segment in there about the alcohol. There was an article in the New York Times on September 5th, 2025, and it was called Federal Report on Drinking is Withdrawn. And, it said much the same, but it was a lot more detailed. I know that is not the last 7 days, but it had something to do with the segment. It was just really interesting. And I thought, that they wanted to support the study that said moderate drinking is healthier than not drinking. That doesn't even make sense, but it's supported by the alcohol industry. So, yeah, I guess that's what they're going to do. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
That's goofy. From a president who does not drink, a moderate amount of Mad Dog 2020 is better than water with no plastic or lead. System of White Supremacy. And they do that, like massively overcharging black people. Like that, we have heard about that so many times. Beryl Satter, that's 2 times for the week. She was a white woman, guest on the program. Her book, Family Property, she talked about, and Chicago specific too. She talked about how her white dad and many other whites, many other whites, owned property and charged black people sometimes like 400% over what the property or rent would be. But this is the nigger tax, if you want to call it that. We're going to charge you, 400% over what we would charge somebody white. And you never get to own the property at all. You miss a payment. Same thing like what happened to Ashley Penn. You miss a payment or one, or maybe you don't. We just tired of it. You get new niggers, and you could be one payment away from it being yours, and kick you out, start over from scratch with nothing. We get new niggers and do the whole thing over again. Standard operating procedure. The anti-racist training, I have no idea what they would say. I do think with the current presidential administration and the pattern for, hey, we're not doing no DEI and all the rest of it, that I think they might come and hit you with one of them DEI bans, like, we're not having no anti-racism talk here and all the rest of it. At best, maybe they get, some person, maybe they get Jane Elliott to come in and do the blue eyes, brown eyes exercise and, don't tell racist jokes. Yeah, I have no idea. But see, this is the one where he said he did all this because the black children were bullying me. That might be his response to all of it. You get Jane Elliott, and they were bullying me. They called me names. They pantsed me in the bathroom. I don't know. The privileged black male, thank you for yielding. Did you have commentary, sir?
Greetings, Gus. Greetings, callers and listeners. Yeah, one of the things I was able to do over the current, actually, I should say the last 2 weeks, I went to a Brooklyn Book Festival. It was really interesting, just walking downtown Brooklyn, and it's just stand after stand after stand of authors or publishers or some form of connection to working with books and publishing. One of the best ones, I think, was the international one that I found. I don't have the slip for it now, but I think it's Words Without Borders campus, where they recognize and work with other groups and educators globally to share books and share documentation, which I think is extremely important in a white supremacist globe, that we do have connections and work with people that are of like mind or have information to share, period. Especially since things like what happened with Charlie Kirk occurred, and you saw the outbreak in the UK of a march throughout their streets in some of solidarity in regards to that as well. And how other non-white people might view that and see that as well, I think is important. But that was one of the things that was there. And there were other stands that were sharing nonfiction and fiction, and they also had a couple of things going on where people were speaking and basically discussing their work, how they came about with the actual thesis and how they started producing their work and who supported them, etc. The other aspect I did see there was a book stand that was it's kind of a book stand, but it was more of, it caught my attention because they were the only book stand that had Malcolm X. And I immediately started wondering what it was about. It appeared to be the Socialist Party, and they had images and pictures of Malcolm X because he had at one point spoken to them. I have to be honest, I haven't done the research to dig in to find out how much he had spoken to them and to what extent and what was being communicated. However, I do know the quote, and I'm summarizing, that Malcolm X stated, which was, at some point there will be some fight, and that fight also will include some poor people and rich people fighting against each other, and that may or may not include the situation of color, but it would affect us because we are predominantly the people that are being subjugated and globally. But that stand was interesting. I found some information. They gave me a newspaper, and I'm looking into some of the details they have. And they will have an event later on in, I believe, next month that I'll check out in November, and I'll attend to see exactly what they're talking about. Second thing, I did pick up a book on Brooklyn history, but after purchasing it, I realized it wasn't as good as this other book I picked up, which was Historic Black Brooklyn, 400 Years of Struggle. It's a professor by the name of Dr. Clarence Taylor. I spoke about this before. So far, it's pretty much one of the best books I've read, and even the images in it are really engaging. Protests, marches, images from Malcolm X to Muhammad Ali coming to Brooklyn and visiting and talking to people, engaging with like minds. It was somewhat refreshing to see those images, I might say, but that book stands far one of the best ones that I've seen on the area that I'm located in. And I'm still trying to learn more in regards to New York's the metropolitan area and New York in general. Moving on from that, I did go back to the exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum called Superfine, Tailoring and Black Style. I unfortunately did not see anything with Superfly in there or Robert Roundtree's Shaft. There were no images or any depictions of those type of works. There was, again, Toussaint Overture. They had images of him written and obviously, illustrations of himself. And they had a sword also that I found was interesting with so much detail and carved into it from the Haitian Revolution that was just fully on display. It's actually worth looking into. I actually took pictures of it. I'll forward them and share them with you, obviously, as well. W.E. Du Bois, they had two images of him, one in more of a quote-unquote European garment, slacks, dress shoes, etc., buttoned up, tied, suited. And then they had another image of him, which was more an African outfit, which was more Ghanaian, and it was also very representing and very unique. And that image was also, that picture was also taken in New York at an older age, which I thought was interesting. They had Marvin Gaye there. Image of Marvin Gaye was also nice. I took pictures of that. I'll share that as well. And Prince. They had a picture of Prince, and they had his ruffled shirt as well. But the main one attraction that I will share 110% with you is the racist caricatures. And these are, they're a little tough to look at, but they are, I think, extremely important because they have images that white people had illustrated of black men and women, but predominantly black men in these very well-tailored suits, but they over-exasperated their images and made them look like quote-unquote animals, so to speak. So it's a really, really, to me, that's one of the really defining points, as well as a disguised one about images of black men as a whole. But yeah, I went back to the Danby exhibit, the Superfine, and it's still interesting. And there'll be other things I'll share along the way. That being said, I will mute my line. Thank you.
Glad you were able to revisit the Museum Octavius in New York. For folks, if you're in the New York area, or maybe you're going to be visiting the New York area, you have until basically the end of the month. So October 26th, you can go check it out. Superfine, Tailoring, Black Style. If you want to go see some of the things that he's talked about, the racist caricatures of Negras and Marvin Gaye, late great. Go check it out if you're in the New York area, or I guess it's past. Dang, you have to check it out for next year. Seems like it might be a September event, but man, reading more important than watching television. Love it. The Brooklyn Book Festival. Love it, love it, love it. I was checking out some of the authors that they had there, and it seemed like they had a lot of dark people. So awesome. Be able to go out and be inspired to read and nab a book, talk it up with some of the authors. So awesome. I guess I'm not surprised to hear that some so-called socialist white people had infiltrated the event, and proudly they got to brandish their Malcolm X paraphernalia. I'm not surprised that he spoke with some white people, period, much less what they called themselves. If they had said that I'm a white racist, I'm a white Jew, I'm a white Republican, I'm a white Democrat, I'm a white socialist, I could easily see him talking to all of these folks. He wrote about talking to so many white people, and then there's footage of him talking to so many white people all over the world. It wouldn't shock me that he spoke to some white people who were called socialist. I would just check out what he had to say during these interactions, and then the time period. I guess I'd also be keeping in mind COINTELPRO, that he might be talking to, a COINTELPRO agent. Who knows? That's their job for the day. Go out and say you're a socialist, and talk to El Haj. Get it on recording where the mic. Who knows? Anyway, I'm sorry.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
Pardon me, Gus. One of the things I did want to point out was I do have work by Hubert Harrison, who's also a classified, I guess you could say he was a leftist at that time. And one of the things that he came to the understanding of, and by the way, for anybody that don't know, Hubert Harrison used to write for Marcus Garvey's paper. He was one of the editors and chief and started that paper. That's how far back he went. And Hubert Harrison had issues with white leftists because he started to understand that they were just as racist and practiced white supremacy just as much as the so-called right at that time, or whatever the opposing side at that time would say. And that's why I view this as, it's interesting that they're utilizing Malcolm X, but at the same time, based on history, this has been a constant theme. And I don't know what has changed since then, because I don't recall. But I will say this, that with the Brooklyn Book Festival, there was a really two dope things. There was one firefighter from New York City. He was one of the first black men that were firefighters. I bought his book. He had loads of stories. When I was talking to him, 93 years old. I mean, really eloquent brother, spoke well, shook my hand, signed my book, everything. Really dope meeting him. Another stand was on Ibu, the Ibu tribe in Africa, speaking about their traditions and how they've evolved throughout the time, and the corruption and other things that are going on that has messed up their quote-unquote country. And the last one I say was the Black Center for Literature at Medgar Evans. That's actually a good one too. They'll have a book retreat, and you could actually, do it online. You don't have to show up to participate in that. Pardon me again, and I'll mute my line.
Right on. Great resources. And yeah, I take that from, many people and studies of racism, counter-racism, what it means to be classified as white. But I do not disaggregate people classified as white. I think that, sets you up for that. Not all white people are racist, which I believe Minister Malcolm X at one point may have endorsed, which is totally fine. Victims guaranteed qualified. But yeah, I'm so-called socialist, leftist, white people, Antifa, maybe, whatever, classified as white. Anyway, but great resources for those who, the book festival is in, I suspect it's like every September, so we missed it this time around, but next year we'll know in advance. September book festival, you can go see if they got new goodies. See, the socialist group might come and hang out, every year to sit around and do whatever. But yeah, much obliged for sharing, inspiring maybe some of us to hit the museum, Octavius. If we hit the New York area, we'll go check out the Dandy exhibit, and then this time next September, if we're there, we'll do the book festival as well. 2 mentions for Marcus Garvey today. Let's see. Star 61 if anyone, well, yeah, it had to be quick. Star 61 if anyone has commentary they want to get before we get ready to wrap things up. No tap water, eat your veggies. I know summer is over, but man, they still have quite a bit of produce, like peaches are ripe and plentiful in many locations. Pomegranate season is on. That's one thing that normally cheers me up a little bit about summer being over. In fact, when I was at the San Francisco Public Library, Mr. Alexander killed, they had pomegranates at the farmer's market, and I lost my mind because they never have pomegranates at the farmer's market in Seattle, and they shouldn't because pomegranates don't grow here, but they had them at the flippin' farmer's market, plenty, and I mean like a large bounty of them, and they were so cheap too. I guess they would be since they grow there, and you know they were in season. But man, I told you I went to the Oakland Cemetery where they have the Jonestown Memorial. I went there that morning before people arrived and everything. And that was my kind of spiritual connection. I ate my pomegranate. It was so yum, tasty. Sat there quietly. Sun was shining. Anyway, that eat fresh produce. Try to get away from because it wasn't in plastic. Again, that's right in, not medical apartheid. A terrible thing to waste. She's written so many books, Harriet A. Washington. A terrible thing to waste. That's the one it's in. And she gives specific suggestions about how to minimize your plastic intake and do the best you can. And Dr. Kanban, he got cesspoolians. That was his term. And that's what they make the whole planet pollute everything. The water, the food, the air, everything. So you just try to do the best that we can in a cesspool of an environment dominated by racist man, racist woman, system of white supremacy, racism, racist child, where they call you a monkey all the time. I have to see when the next Planet of the Apes will be christened. Anywho, I don't think, make sure we didn't miss anyone. We didn't have any additional comments folks needed to sneak in. Grant. We will be here at new book. We just finished Susan Smith, and we did hear all that white forgiveness of the killer up in Minnesota. Same thing we heard with Susan Smith and Mary Kay. White people, regardless of the crime, you are to be forgiven if you are white. But new book coming next week, Catherine Massey Book Club. I'll decide for sure by Tuesday and let folks know. Neutralizing Workplace Racism on Thursday. Just check social media updates for other broadcasts. That said, sobriety would be best. Hey, be like President Trump. No tattoos, no drinking. Creator, we ask that you remind us not all to stop saying not all white people are racist. Remind us to stop wasting non-white people's time and energy. Maximize our time and energy to replace white supremacy with justice. Remind us to stop name-calling people classified as black. Stop producing throwaway offspring to be raped by Mary Kay Letourneau or drowned by Susan Smith or other white women. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cows signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. Problem. You're a victim. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning. Shut up. The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.